Okay, let's call this January 22nd meeting of the Mountlake Terrace City Council to order. A roll call, please.
I have to read it so I don't screw it up. Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Here.
Councilmember Murray.
Present.
Councilmember Doyle.
Present.
Councilmember Page.
Present.
Councilmember Sonmore.
Here.
Councilmember Matsumoto Wright.
Here.
And Mayor Woodard asked to be excused.
Do I have a motion to excuse Mayor Woodard?
Move to excuse Mayor Woodard.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor of excusing Mayor Woodard?
Second. Oh, sorry, aye.
Aye. Very good. Mayor is excused. All right, moving on to general comments. Do we have anybody signed up online or in person?
We do have Adam online. First, I'll read the statement for our public comment. The city welcomes general public comments at the beginning of council work sessions and meetings and comments on a particular agenda item at the time it is being discussed. Public comments are for the official record. Council does not respond to comments or questions during this time. Address the council as a whole, and comments shall pertain to topics, not individual council members, staff, or audience members. The clerk will terminate comments beyond the allotted 5-minute time, or if there is a violation of the comment behavior guidelines. Written comments received will be added to the official record, but will not be read aloud. Okay, Adam, just one moment. We have a new fancy thing here. Thank you. Okay, Adam, you have 5 minutes to speak.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi. So I'm just here again to remind everyone that the pandemic is ongoing and that we're currently in the 12th major COVID wave, as you can hopefully see on my Zoom icon. So why should we
Adam, you
time
cut out.
is a roll of the dice for symptomatic long COVID and post-acute events like strokes and heart attacks. Everyone is highly vulnerable, including the young and including the vaccinated. And people are still dying too. Even the CDC, which abandoned its public health duties in 2021 in service of corporate profits, is saying over 100,000 people are still dying of it a year. Just this week, a massive major study confirmed what has already been known. COVID damages the immune system. I'll use the words directly from the study's conclusion. Our findings redefine SARS-CoV-2 infection as a condition of long-lasting immune compromise. Think about that for a second. I don't understand why collectively or individually we're not doing anything to protect ourselves and each other. I know nobody wants to think of the pandemic as an ongoing event, but that doesn't change the fact that it is, and the fact that there's more COVID circulating now than there was in 2020 and the vast majority of 2021. As things stand, it's not safe to be in any public setting without wearing an N95. How are people supposed to get dental and medical care? Why are we repeatedly infecting kids with a disease we know for a fact maims them? Long COVID is already the #1 chronic condition in children just a few years in. We are literally disabling a generation. I'm begging the council again to take the following 4 steps. 1. An educational public health campaign that teaches people the realities of COVID, how it spreads, how to stop it, what the consequences of infection are, and so on. We need to remind people that this is an ongoing threat, not a past event. And just a quick example to highlight the need for this. When I go to do a grocery pickup, I frequently see people wiping down their shopping carts before entering the store, and sometimes they'll even be wearing surgical masks. It makes me happy and gives me hope to see that people still care and are trying. It really does. But then it makes me sad because neither action will protect people from an airborne virus like COVID. We need to teach people the facts so they can stay safe. 2. Provide N95s to the community. An N95 that fits you approaches 100% protection against infection and transmission, and therefore also long COVID and death. They're extremely cheap and can be reused multiple times. They're a technological marvel, a gift, and we're inexplicably rejecting them. 3. Start getting air purifiers into our public spaces so that the virus is removed from the air. 4. Throw community events where people wear N95s and build Corsi cubes. As I've explained before, Corsi cubes are cost-efficient, homemade air purifiers that outperform commercial HEPA purifiers. It would be a great way for the community to come together, learn about how to protect each other, and actually take those steps to protect each other. I'll leave it there for now, but please, we have to start doing something. We cannot go on pretending it's 2019. Denial isn't a strategy. Thanks.
Thank you, Adam. All right, Jennifer, anybody else?
Yes, George Stanton, you'll have 5 minutes at the podium.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity to speak today. My name is George Stanton. I've been a Mountlake Terrace resident since 2018, and I'm here because of an issue that I'm very passionate about. I saw that, once again, our pool was closed this week, and I am terrified about the long-term status of our pool and rec center. I think, as most of us know, it is in kind of its end stages of life. It has served the community for a long time. And it's still a great facility to use, but as I understand, there are multiple issues that could cause it to suddenly have a very expensive repair that would make us all consider whether or not we want to do that repair or go a different route on it. And that is really scary to me. As somebody who grew up swimming, I coached swimming for 12 years. I swam through college. It is a very important lifelong skill, and it's something that we see engages all ages in the community. I hear constantly how successful our swim lesson program is. I've heard that from members of the council. I hear that from our staff. I can see it when I go down there. It is packed. We're subscribed. Similarly, we have tons of seniors down there daily doing aqua aerobics and other things. It is a well-loved, well-used facility, and I'm worried that we just don't seem to be preparing for whatever comes next. I know that our city staff is working hard on that, but I think that we owe it to the community to be more transparent about the current status of the pool. I think that what I fear and what I see happening right now is that we're entering into a situation where one day the pool will suddenly be closed permanently, and a lot of people are going to be very confused and very upset about that. And I think that this is something that we need to engage the community on sooner rather than later. I know for important big events like this, like our current budget issues, that we have set up a task force for that. I think it would be smart to start engaging the community and set up a task force for the Mountlake Terrace Recreation Center. It is really a remarkable facility, and I just want to make sure it continues. I know as somebody who's grown up in the area and swam my whole life that pool space is at a premium. It has always been difficult to find pool space. I've been on club teams that have had to jump around to multiple different facilities to find a pool to be able to swim in. I know that many other cities are facing similar challenges, and I hope that this is something that we can all work together and get ahead of, just so nobody in our community is surprised, and that we have people engaged early in the process to give input and support for making that happen. I'm ready and willing to help on any of that, but I think that we should, as a community, be a little bit more transparent about that. I often read my favorite magazine, the Mountlake Terrace Happenings, and it's not a joke, I love it. And I think we have, that is somewhere that we could help kind of elevate this as well. So would love to just see more action on that, and I would love to help on that. Thank you.
Thanks, George. All right. Anybody else? And if not, first of all, I recognize, let the record show that Mayor Woodard is here, made it back from Olympia.
No one else has signed up for public comment.
Thank you, Mayor, very much. If that is it, I will introduce the next topic and then turn it over to the mayor. All right. So next up is a presentation on Chamber of Commerce update. Economic Development Ryan Doss is going to introduce our Chamber Executive Director Ariel and President Sarah Frost. And I see Justin and some others in the audience. If you want to join, come on up.
Well, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members. My name is Ryan Doss. I'm the Economic Development Manager here at the city, and it's my pleasure to welcome the Mountlake Terrace Chamber of Commerce here tonight for their presentation on their annual report. So I will just hand it off to y'all.
Thank you, Ryan. All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ariel King. I am the Executive Director for the Mountlake Terrace Chamber of Commerce, and sitting with me is President of the Board and owner of Making Local, Sarah Frost. Hello. And to my left is nobody important. I'm just kidding. Our Vice President and COO of Double D Meats, very important, Justin Nygaard. And this is our presentation. Thanks, Ryan, for getting that
We'll
up
need
there.
you each to speak directly into the microphone up close. Thank you.
Is this better? Thank you. This is also my first time at a council meeting, so thank you for having us. Okay, so a little over a month ago, you all received our annual report. So this is just a condensed version of it for presentation purposes. And, oh, I do have to scroll. Ooh, all right. Is it okay to minimize that? Okay. All right, so this is the same executive summary that council received. And so I'm not going to read all of it word for word, but I do want to note that 2025 was a year of transition and foundational rebuilding for the chamber. The organization underwent an executive leadership change early in the year, and the months of May through October were spent fulfilling inherited grant obligations to ensure the chamber and the city remained in compliance. Beginning in October, the chamber was able to shift its focus toward strengthening its internal infrastructure, improving organizational governance, expanding communications, and building some systems that directly support the economic development goals outlined in the City Chamber Agreement, which we'll talk about in just a moment. So, little 2025 at a glance here. As I mentioned, it was a year of leadership transition, a year focused on honoring existing commitments, and a year that laid the foundation for long-term economic development work. These are the main things that are in our city chamber contract that we've agreed on. So we have business attraction and visibility, small business support, town center activation, and business advocacy. Just a reminder of what we'll be talking about today. And how we worked with the city in 2025 is I have a monthly strategic meeting with the city's economic development manager, Ryan Doss. And we have dedicated city economic development updates in our chamber communications. So in July, we launched a monthly email newsletter that goes out to our entire email subscriber base. And we have an economic development section in that newsletter. And then every month, Ryan comes to our chamber board meetings and our networking events. We also have Andrew Applewick also comes to our networking events every single month, the city's event coordinator, although we might have to ask him not to come anymore because he keeps winning all of our raffle prizes. And like every month he wins like at least two of them. It's crazy. It's wild. And then we have ongoing coordination on messaging and priorities. So in between our my monthly meetings with Ryan, we have ongoing communication via email and meetings as needed just to talk about anything that's going on new with the city or with our members or anything like that. We have a very good working relationship. So just an overview of some like how the chamber utilized city funds this year. Executive director staffing, myself. Business engagement activities, communications and outreach like the said monthly email newsletter. Administrative needs related to economic development services and marketing and SEO initiatives. And this is the team. So as you can see, we have 12 board members. Our president, Sarah Frost, vice president, Justin Nygaard, Ann Penny is our secretary, and Othman Riyad, who is in the crowd tonight. Hey, Othman, is our brand new treasurer as of 2026. We're very excited to add him. And we have Jeremy Miner, who is also a board member in the crowd today. Wherever, there he is. Hey, Jeremy. So if you're ever wondering, you know, who's running the chamber, these are their faces. Recognize them. They're all business owners or residents of Mountlake Terrace. So from January through April was an organizational transition. We had a new executive director. This was also prior to my employment with the chamber. During this time, my predecessor left the organization, and they were trying to find a new executive director. So that was a board-led process to recruit the new executive director. In May is when I got hired. I started on May 5th, and on May 7th, had a meeting with one of our grants funders and got started right away on a huge project. Had to figure out how to fit 5 months of work into 5 weeks. And so my immediate focus was on inherited time-sensitive grant obligations. So we placed our priority on that and delivering the scope of work for that grant. May through October was all about execution and compliance. So we, like I said, had 2 major grant-funded projects that were already in progress that we needed to complete. We had compressed timelines, and that required rapid coordination and delivery. And then we focused on honoring commitments made to funders and partners. Basically just trying to get the scope of work for both grants that we had done. Here's a little quick snapshot of the grants that we had. So this is the first one. It was granted by WSMA, which is the Washington Micro Enterprise Association. We led 6 expert-led trainings and 10 hours of one-on-one technical assistance. All of the webinars were recorded and translated into 5 languages. And our goal was to serve 60 unique businesses, and we ended up serving 63. So, hey, that's pretty cool. Some outcome snapshots over here. 13 jobs were saved, 4 jobs were created, 4 businesses were started, and 40 businesses were expanded. The second grant, which I'm sure everyone here knows all about, was the city's LTAC grant for WAGFest. which was a community-centered, tourism-focused event in September. We had 50 vendors, sponsors, and partners, and around 2,000 attendees from Mountlake Terrace and beyond. I think it went everywhere from, we had attendees from Portland, Oregon, all the way to Bellingham for that event. It was a really great event. And although our timeline was extremely compressed and we did not have enough time to make it everything we wanted it to be, it turned out to be really amazing. Mostly because of Sarah.
Team effort.
I want to talk about why this phase mattered. It ensured that the chamber remained in good standing with the funders. We had already received those grants. We already received the go-ahead. We already created the scope of work. That was inherited when I started, and it was really important that we continue with that. It protected the city and chamber credibility, and it created space to shift into strategic work by year's end. That strategic work started in November. And this is really where we started laying the groundwork for the chamber. So we shifted from inherited obligations to long-term strategy. We focused on governance, systems, and alignment. And we prepared the chamber for sustained economic development work. Some of the ways that one of the biggest way that we did that was in December, we held a board alignment retreat where all of the board members got together and we basically just aligned them on where the organization should go. So during this board alignment retreat, we created a mission, vision, and purpose statement along with our core values. This is important for any organization, not just a chamber. It really lays the groundwork for any decisions going forward. Anything that goes bad, anything that goes well or indifferent, anything that happens with the organization, you look back on the mission, vision, purpose, and core values to really define, help you make decisions and define everything moving forward. So that was really pivotal for us. And these are those statements and values. Our purpose is we exist to develop a thriving business community. Our mission is to support business community growth through member services, resources, advocacy, and economic development. And our vision is that we are the hub for business and community in Mountlake Terrace. Our values that we decided on are community, diversity, integrity, sustainability, and levity, because we're a fun chamber. Little 2025 by the numbers here. This is in regards to membership and engagement. As of December 15th, 2025, we had 72 total members, 33 new members added, plus 32 net growth, and around 25 to 30 active members come to every one of our networking events. Numbers in regards to outreach and visibility. As of December 15th, we had 1,456 newsletter subscribers with an average open rate of 40%. For those of you who are not familiar with that email marketing, that is a really good number. We held 12 networking events and had total attendance of 304. So the end of 2025 was a real pivot point for us and a clear shift because we had determined those values and statements, and everything was just very clear for us moving forward. We shifted to being more strategic rather than reactive. We focused on long-term capacity rather than short-term delivery. And we moved to a modern infrastructure from our legacy systems, which I will touch on in just a moment. Looking ahead in 2026, now that we've laid the foundation. It's time for some forward motion. We just had last week and part of this week a full migration over to a system called ChamberMate, which is an all-in-one member management, event calendar, website builder, CRM, you name it. And it is going to change the way that we interact with our members and the way that our members are able to interact with each other and them with us as well. It's just going to streamline all of our member processes to a T. We're very excited about it. We had at our first board meeting in earlier this month, we had a review of our bylaws, and we will be revising them at the next board meeting. We have an updated marketing strategy aligned with city priorities. My apologies, that has not been created yet. We are working on it. And then we are going to work on streamlined workflows. So membership is going to be totally handled through ChamberMate. We're going to be working on some non-dues revenue streams and increasing our communication with our members and with the community. In terms of governance and committees, we are going through a total committee restructure. At the beginning of 2025, the chamber had established committees with no direction or committee membership, and just didn't take off. So what we decided to do was open up committee membership to all of the chamber members, which they don't know about yet, but if you're a chamber member, heads up, that's coming. So we identified 3 new committees, which are marketing and events, government affairs, and membership. Those committees will be chaired by a board member, and then the committee members will be chamber members, hopefully. We're very hopeful for that. And then we're also creating clear charters for every committee so that there's clear direction about what the committee does, how they operate, who's in charge of what, and what goals that they have for the year. In terms of economic development capacity, our goals for 2026 are co-developed business resources, co-branded marketing initiatives, wayfinding and town center efforts, event-based economic activation, and improved business support navigation. How this all looks will it will depend on what happens with the branding initiative through the city and what funding we can secure for ourselves. But whatever we decide, we will work with the economic development manager, Ryan, very closely. As far as long-term sustainability, because that is one of our values now, sustainability, we'd like to increase revenue growth through a new membership structure. So in addition to moving over to ChamberMate, we also introduced a whole new membership structure. There, in previous years, we've just had one membership with one price. Now we have multiple memberships with multiple prices to be more inclusive to larger companies, nonprofits, and community members. So just like a single person can sign up for a membership, and it's not going to be as much as like an organization or a company that has 50 to 100 employees, and our prices for nonprofits are less expensive than the business membership. So we're hoping that that now that we've made it more accessible to a wider range of businesses, that we'll continue to see revenue growth from that. We're exploring the transition to a full-time executive director. For those of you who do not know, I am part-time and I am not an actual employee of the chamber. I am a contractor. So we're exploring how to make that official. And then might be a 2027 goal, maybe not 2026, but who knows? Maybe our new membership structure will take off and we can afford a staff expansion. Knock on wood. And then lastly, increased focus on sponsorships, grants, and partnerships. So we have premium memberships that folks can buy. We're looking at other grants, not just the ones that we've already applied to, but capacity building grants and other things that will help us reach these goals. And looking at more partnerships through the community, with the city, anyone that wants to partner with us and aligns with our values. So, in conclusion, the transition was handled, the foundation was built, and the chamber is now positioned as a strong city partner. And here are some really nice things that people have said about us. And I will now open that up for questions or comments from anyone. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? Councilmember Page.
Thank you. Thank you all for your presentation. It was very well done, and I think it really spoke to what you all done in 2025. The note that I wrote to say to you all was thank you for 2025. I think I was very new to the council when we formally established that partnership, with you all, and you told us what your goals were, but I walked out of the room wondering, okay, I wonder what that's going to really look like. Are they just talking? These things that they want to do, are they going to be able to do? And what's not on the slides are some of those numbers that, your goals that you realized. But the things that really was important to me was I found you all. I didn't get to go to all 12, but I went to enough to see that, you're right. I tell Angela all the time, just go stand in a corner, don't say anything. He walks out with 4 gifts, whatever. Yeah. But, what I liked about your networking events and where they were very diverse businesses, throughout the 12. And to me, that spoke volumes to what it is that you're really trying to get accomplished. I think what the city is trying to accomplish when we talk about that vibrant, diverse business, growing businesses. And the networking events were just that. I mean, when December, the folks that signed up last minute to become members, that was really part of all that networking that's been going on all year. When I think of, your purpose, mission, and vision, statement, it really came to fruition for me in October, when you all got involved with the domestic violence program project, and you helped a business that really didn't need any help growing, over at the Getaway, but you were there. That's where you had your networking event. That's where you supported the domestic violence services program that we were doing over there, and them and you brought so many people to that event. You were visible. People know who you are. They respected you enough to come and participate in that event. And I think that's where, this whole PMV, comes together. And the last thing, or the second to last thing is, what I found with you all is that you're so open to options. You're flexible. You listen to the public. The advice, or recommendations that are given to you, I've seen you take off with them and make them work. And a lot of businesses won't do that. A lot of organizations won't do that. And the get sauced, that was a big deal. And the reason why it was a big deal for me, because I remember standing out there, looking at what was going on. And for the first time, I realized what, Town Center could possibly look like, on any given Saturday or Sunday, with just that event. Wagfest or something else, that was way off the chart. But that one, the Get Sauce, was really special, because I think it gave everybody that drove down 66 an opportunity to see, just what can happen if Town Center grows to where we want it to grow. So thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Councilmember Page. Would like to point out that although Get Sauced was an amazing event, it was not the chamber that put it on. It was Sarah Frost of Making Local, our president of our board. I'd also like to point out that we like to say that we're not a regular chamber. We're a cool chamber. So we're very genuine and always open to feedback, and we get stuff done. Yeah.
Okay, that was fantastic. Thank you. And my comment is as a new council member, but mostly as a city resident. So I moved up here in 2012, and the city was not very developed, right? But I saw the potential of the city, and it's so exciting to me to see like the potential coming, right? So when I first moved here, it was light rail is coming, and it was just a thing that was off in the distance, and now it's here. So this is exciting as a resident and as your newest council member. I think I read the economic development report. I think I was talking with Ryan about that recently, and I'm very aware of how much money, unfortunately, as residents, we spend outside of the city. I want to spend my money here. I want to spend my money and support local businesses. So I'm really hoping that we can all have the option to do that in the future, and the work that you're doing will help us do that. And then we don't have to go always to Linwood or Seattle or online. We can go to town center and buy what we need to buy. So I'm excited at that possibility happening. So thank you.
Speaking of which, I talked to some of the council members how I'm really excited about going in the future of having multi-chamber, multi-city events based them here in Mountlake Terrace. A lot of them go to Linwood where they might have the infrastructure or like the space to do so, but I think that we can get creative, and we're starting to really look at that, how we can bring everybody here, like you said. One thing that I personally think is really cool that we're starting to see with the membership is they're giving B2B discounts. So I know like some employees are getting certain discounts that we're like trading resources, which is really kind of cool. And to go off of that diversity aspect of our chamber, like almost every person that goes to these networking events is from a different industry. There's like almost no overlap, and it's really kind of cool. I can tell you that some of the benefits of just even those kind of events really help our members. Like one, for example, had a litigation troll go after them and target a business in Mountlake Terrace, demanding $30,000. And at one of our networking events, met with a lawyer and just got casual advice and got that dropped. So it protected them. So that was kind of neat. And so to see like the resources starting to be shared, because ever since COVID, we have like this thirst to get out there, but we got to bring them to Mountlake Terrace. And so that's like what we're really focused on. Now that we have the infrastructure to do so that we've laid out this year as a board, we're really excited to really blow this out of the water for 2026. 2026 is going to be a good year. I'm very excited.
Awesome. Please.
Thank you. And thank you all for being here and for the work that you do. I appreciate that we have a cool chamber in Mountlake Terrace. A fan of chamber work generally, but very appreciative for cool chamber work. I love seeing the camaraderie and the results of what comes from coming together and, you know, spending time getting to know each other and support one another. And I'm excited to see where that lends itself. I think, so math is not my strong suit. I'll start there. But so I was looking at your slide, and I think it said renewals unknown, but I was like, well, if net growth was 32 and then you have 33 new members, does that mean you kept all but one member over the course of the year? That's what my math would say, which I think is a pretty impressive retention rate for what it's worth. So clearly the folks that are joining are finding value in the, you know, being a part of what you do. I guess I'd be curious, and I think you've spoken to this a little bit, but so you have all of these new tiers of membership. Like, talk to us about value proposition. Why does an individual in Mountlake Terrace want to potentially join the chamber? Why should an established business who's been here a long time and maybe doesn't necessarily feel like they're doing well, like they don't necessarily feel like they need business support? And like, why does a new business in Mountlake Terrace come to the chamber? And like, maybe you could just speak a little to kind of those three scenarios so that people, because I don't think everyone understands what a chamber does, right? Outside of being cool and maybe having some networking events. And so maybe you could just speak a little bit more to that.
I got my own. Just joking. That's an awesome clarification and awesome question. I think one of the first things to note is that when we switched from our sort of flat rate member fee of the past, we offered a very limited amount of resources. We had a couple things that we were like, this is what we do. We do it really well, but like, this is what we do. And then we said, okay, we got to be able to offer more in order to change up those rates. Some of the rates stayed relatively the same. Some of them went up based on full-time employees, all of that. But we beefed up our resources, we're beefing up our opportunities, and we're beefing up how people are able to interact with the chamber and what benefits they're getting from that to sort of equal out that value so that you're really going to get your dollar's worth if you're going to come spend it with us. We have not only ribbon cuttings, we've got then that could be for a brick and mortar. Great. Maybe you got a new sign. We just did that a couple weeks ago. We went over to Mountlake Terrace licensing. They were chamber members and they'd been in business for a year, but they got a brand new sign. We were like, you know what? Let's celebrate you. Let's do a grand reopening. So there's really impactful things that can bring people to your business. I think that it's a great way to connect with people who are like-minded. So to answer the question about why would just an individual come? Maybe they are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. Maybe they're thinking about ways that they could grow a business. What a great way to get your foot in the door and see what that community is really like. What a great way to see what running a business really means to all these different people. With the nonprofits, we really want to connect. We want to connect with the nonprofits, both to partner and support their values and our values, but also to connect them to other businesses and community members who would benefit from their projects or their programs, or vice versa. Maybe they need support. You know, we're partnering with the Concern for Neighbors Food Bank at the end of this month, next week, if you join us at our networking event. That's an awesome relationship that we've been building over the past year or two, maybe more than that, probably pre me coming on board. I think the thing about chambers that we are trying to sort of rewrite the script on is that they're boring meetings where you just go around and pass out your business card, which that does nobody any good. It really doesn't. But what we also want to do in that process is teach people how to network. That is a learned skill. So one of the ways we do that is that we just open it up and we make it super casual and super fun so that whether you have never done it before and it's your first time getting in the door and you're like, I'm not even a business owner, you know, you're going to have a good time. You're going to meet cool people in your community. You're going to get connected with maybe you're a homeowner and you need a great plumber. Great, come to a networking event. But guarantee you there's going to be a plumber or somebody who knows a great plumber that's here in Mountlake Terrace or very, very close by serving Mountlake Terrace. Those are sort of the interconnected pieces that we are really trying to enhance, support, grow, and show that like chambers don't have to be boring and they can really move the needle on your business. I mean, I think being able to partner at these networking events gets you in front of 30 people every time. And if you're a partner with us as maybe a food provider or whatever, that's 30 people that maybe never would have tried your food. So I think there's a ton of different ways that we're sort of reaching those different audiences and meeting them where they are, even though they're coming to us for these networking events or whatever else. Like, we all have to sort of meet in the middle. And I think that's what we're trying to do and do in a very like casual, fun way. Because it shouldn't be intimidating to walk into a room and say, hi, my name is. And it really can be. We're not as equipped to do that anymore necessarily. So I think you're going to see a lot of growth and a lot of, I think it's just going to be really fun. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, I was going to say, I think that answered my question phenomenally, and I like that you said beefed up so much. I was waiting for Justin to be like, I was like, is that a tie-in? Is that, yeah, okay. No, I appreciate all that you were doing. I think in particular at a time where I think a lot of neighborhood chambers are struggling to see ours growing and having more impact at a time when I think local businesses in particular need that support is just phenomenal. So I'm excited to see what's next. I'm excited to hear more about particularly some of the economic development pieces and how we bring more of the great businesses that we already have, how we bring more like-minded folks to our community to start cool businesses, but just excited for what's to come. So thank you for all of the work that you've been doing.
Other comments or questions? Yes, please.
And that brings me back to when you all first started this thing together. And I think of long-term sustainability. You talk about long-term sustainability. And my ask is that, that you keep that in mind for our residents, our new businesses, our old businesses, as well as what the city is trying to accomplish, but most importantly for these businesses, that you find a way to make sure to keep track of those businesses, because when you came on board, the first thing I thought of, and I think we had conversation about this, is how are you going to make sure that these businesses, especially the new ones that we have in the city, will still be here a year from now? Because I remember in the beginning, you didn't really know how many active members you had, where they were, who they were, were they still in business or anything like that. To me, that's the most important thing that you all can do, is to work with the businesses that we have to keep them sustained in our community so that they continue to grow.
Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Madam. Mr. Mayor, sorry. First of all, welcome. Ariel, I know you've been here for almost nearly a year, but this being your first, nearly, but.
Feels like 2 months.
Right, but being their first introduction to the city council, I want to welcome you and let you know how much of an incredible job you've done in coming aboard, and having been very engaged and an advocate of creating the chamber in the first place, and working with the team since the beginning. It is really refreshing to see the energy and organization and focus that you've brought to the chamber, and I think that's making a huge difference. And so really appreciate having you here with us and having the rest of the team. You guys have been fantastic pulling things together. All of you guys that are working on this, appreciate all the work that you're doing to make the chamber successful. I really want to highlight a couple of things that you mentioned here, but particularly how important it is for business retention and expansion of our current businesses. I mean, that was one of our key strategic goals in our economic development strategy, and we need you guys to be able to make that happen. You are the ones. You are the ones that are constantly in touch with and working with the small business community and making sure that they have what they need to be successful here in Mountlake Terrace. And so being that voice and having that outreach is critical for our city, and we really appreciate you doing that. The other piece of that is the expansion, but also attraction, which you talk about the business attraction and visibility, and bringing new businesses to our community. For us to, one of the biggest challenges, again, in our economic development strategy, one of the biggest challenges we face is just letting the world know that we're here and we're open for business and we're welcoming and we want to bring more businesses to Mountlake Terrace. And you guys being that voice and having that visibility is going to be really critical and key for us to be successful with that. As everybody knows, I could go on and on about economic development, but I'm going to wrap it up with the business advocacy and how important it is that you now have the Government Affairs Committee, because we need to hear from you guys about what works and what doesn't work from a business perspective. We need to know what policies we're working on and how it affects the business community, and we need to rely on you guys to let us know. And so having that Government Affairs Committee is going to be critically important moving forward to make sure that you're engaged with us and we're engaged with you, and we know that we're making the right policies to be able to help expand the business community here. So again, thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
We'll go.
Well, again, thank you for being here, and WAGFest. We took a risk on that, and we're very pleasantly surprised, very surprised. And we had a lot of good feedback on it. And we usually don't get that feedback when an event is first introduced. Having planned many events, it takes a ton of work. And to get that many people and the booths all filled, I was extremely impressed. I was really impressed with the bands too, but that was wonderful. And I can still hear something about rain. This one man sung about rain, and anyhow, I had friends up there, and we were just very impressed with how much work you had done in that. So we hope to have another good one. But I know I'm putting a lot of stress on you, but I don't want to. And I was busy looking at my phone real fast. I know there's some House bills coming in. I'm just going to shift a little here. Coming in that will probably limit us having businesses here. And so that'll be something I'm sure that you'll be talking about and getting feedback on. I think that was Brian was referring to as well. So it's going to really change how we're going to do economic development here. And there's like other couple of bills that are probably not so good for the city and that could put the city in jeopardy on other things. So having somebody and talking about those things in your meeting are very important because, as you know, like cities of Briar do not have a big business base. And what cities want is a big business base. And 4 square miles, we're extremely limited. And so we've always appreciated our business here. We try to shop local. We've promoted that for years. Now with Edmonds and Linwood raising their tax on items, it could help us promote our city a little bit better, getting items that aren't as taxed as much. I think Edmondson and Linwood are the highest in the state now. I know it's easy to go to Linwood because it's very convenient, and that's one of the things that we want to have in the city is making things convenient. With light rail coming in, shopping down there, it makes it a lot convenient for people. The walkability in there still, it's a little cramped sometimes, but we are told that's the way of the future. But it looks like it's going pretty well down there. I drove through it the other day, and of course in the new area, I saw a lot of empty spaces, which hopefully will get filled very quickly. But nurturing those new businesses when they come in, and what you said, you hit it right on the nail. A lot of people don't know how to network. And when I was looking for a plumber, I went to Mountlake Terrace first, right? And I found some good and some bad, and and so when somebody does something bad, I think it's important to talk to that business. We got feedback on such and such because we want to make our businesses strong. And we used to always talk about there's no restaurants to go to. Well, we're getting some, and we have Big Draw with Double D Meats, of course, for many, many years. But it's just important to have our business space and that tax space for the city. So, of course, we're very supportive of everything you do. And please send a message back to your members that the council appreciates them and all the businesses as well. So thank you for being here tonight, too.
Thank you. So I'm glad to see the tiered entry-level pricing. There's a lot of things. I was a member in the old days before the chamber of the Mountlake Terrace Business Association. And, there were a lot of individuals at that time. And so talking about individuals, there are insurance brokers, real estate agents, whatever. They're all, their companies don't have to join, they can join. And so there's a lot of, and I noticed that you have some people out in the audience that have come to support you. And I would like to know if they were going to be recognized so that, okay, good.
Good question.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, they're businesses too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, great question. So we have Jeremy Miner with Team NSRG Real Estate. Thank you, Jeremy. He's been a board member for about 3 years. And then Othman Rayed, and he's our treasurer, and he and his wife are both locals to Mountlake Terrace. Home daycare. Thank you for the reminder. You'll have to forgive me, brand new. So my memory is, nervous. But no, and just joined up with us this month. So super happy to have him on board. Any other chamber members here?
Julieta, are you here for the chamber? No?
Nope, that's it.
Well, our memberships start at $150 a month. So if you'd like to become a member, email info@mltchamber.org.
Is it 150 a month or?
The lowest tier.
Annual.
The lowest tier, if you're like,
Yeah, annual.
based off of size, yeah.
Yeah.
What a steal.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I will close this out with my words, which is, yeah, I just want to echo the thank you. I think, I try to show up when I can, but I made sure that my organization is a member, so I want to make sure we're not that net loss, are we? Because I'm supposed to renew and I'm way behind. Making sure that's a false number if it was us. That said, as everyone has said, just thank you for that work. I think Mayor Pro Tem covered the one question I had, which was how we can help, and it sounds like the government affairs. You might lean on one or two of us on this table here, and that would be a good opportunity, which I'll just leave that to say thank you for stepping up, all of you, for positions. It's not easy to be a member, let alone to be a member who's engaged in the, let's just call it bureaucracy. I mean, it might be fun in the day, but it's bureaucracy at the end of the day, and that's a lot of work, so thank you all for that. I'm going to leave it there because you probably have a long night, and I know I've had a long day. So thank you all and appreciate you.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Next up, speaking of long days, we have a review ordinance adopting comprehensive emergency management plan with Snohomish County with our Public Works Director, Gary Shimmick. And it's a long day for our Public Works Director, and I want the record to reflect. I don't apologize because I was down representing us in Olympia, but know that me pulling in port only about 20 minutes ahead of me was Gary pulling in port from the same long case. I wasn't speeding, I was flying low. There's a difference. But that said, not only did he have a presence at AWC yesterday, but he was on the Hill today lobbying, I think, with his colleagues. So just recognizing that our chamber is awesome, but our staff is awesome as well, that they are being pulled down into these conversations to represent our city, but also our county. So just wanted to recognize that and thank you, sir, for that time. That said, looks like he's got some folks with him and he'll take it from there.
Yes, Jennifer's going to have to help me because that has been a long day. Hello, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. I'm your Public Works Director, Gary Shimmick, and as most of you know me, I like to bring friends and colleagues along to share in our great public works. And we have two folks here from the Snohomish County Department of Emergency Management. Jamie Haslaw. I was close. We've been working together at email so much, I just used your first name. And the DM Deputy Director, Dara Salmon. So thank you for being here. So it's going to be a twofer today. We're going to have Jamie talk to you about a little bit the emergency management basics, but also the county's plan. And then I'm going to come after that to tell you about what we call our annex, which is Mountlake Terrace specific. But I just want to start off by saying DEM is a fantastic partner. As you'll hear in my talk here, I've learned so much about this. I've been in the business 30 years. Working through this with DEM has been really education for me as well. So our city will be very well prepared when there is, because there will be, right? There will be an emergency and we'll be in good hands. All right, and I will direct your traffic here.
All right, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. So I am here to speak to the importance of comprehensive emergency management planning and the great work that has been done by the city of Mountlake Terrace in developing their CEMP annex. Next slide. Great, actually, jump back one, sorry. No problem. I didn't realize you jumped. Okay, so here's a brief overview of what we'll cover tonight. I'll provide a high-level look at how response is coordinated at the local level, and then I'll share with you the Department of Emergency Management's CEMP plan structure and how the specific plans fit together under the county's base plan. And then I will hand it over to Gary to speak a little bit more to the content found within Mountlake Terrace's CEMP annex. So here's a timeline of the CEMP planning process. In early 2025, our planning program developed an annex template and a guide for interlocal agreement partners to use. We also hosted workshops with each of those partners, and this was really the time to engage key staff in those important conversations around preparedness and response coordination. And then really, the based on those conversations, that information was used to inform development of the annex. So in April, we met with city staff for the workshop, and then between then and December, the city's CEMP annex was developed. During that time, our team provided support through office hours and review to ensure alignment with the county's CEMP-based plan. And then here we are in the present, presenting to all of you the results of all of that work. So once Mountlake Terrace's CEMP annex is adopted, the annex can then be shared again with DEM. And what we'll do is we'll package up the county's base plan, any adopted CEMP annexes, and then submit directly to the Washington State Emergency Management Division for review. I will note that due to the December flood event and the ongoing recovery efforts, we are looking most likely to submit at the end of March. So not all emergencies and disasters are alike. Typically, you have your first responders, right? So your firefighters, police officers, your EMTs, they are really able to manage those daily emergencies as routine matters. But so back up. So incident command is established, and then the incident commander assumes that responsibility for determining resource needs and prioritizing objectives to stabilize the incident. But what happens when the really bad emergency requires more capability than the individual agencies can provide? Next slide. So that's when support from an emergency operations center or an EOC comes into play. If the local emergency requires additional resources, the city of Mountlake Terrace may activate its EOC. So while the incident commander is responsible for those emergency field operations, the EOC would generally be responsible for things like gathering information to maintain that situational awareness, providing resource support for emergency operations, and then disseminating that public messaging out to residents to keep them informed. And depending on the complexity of the emergency, the city may also have a need to stand up a policy group. And that policy group is available to really provide direction and make those critical policy decisions. So if the need exceeds local capacity or capability, the city could reach out to the DEM duty officer for support. This is an on-call position that rotates within our department. The duty officer is available 24/7, and then depending on the scope and complexity of the incident, the duty officer could help facilitate things like resource needs and help with, issuing those public alerts and warnings if necessary. And then depending on the incident needs, the county may activate its EOC to provide that additional support to an impacted jurisdiction or multiple jurisdictions. And the county EOC is staffed by what we call emergency support function representatives or ESF representatives. These reps really are the subject matter experts. So a number of them are staffed from internal county departments, folks from our Public Works Department, Human Services, our Health Department, and then we also look to fire, law enforcement, utility representatives to bring in those resources and expertise to the table for response. And so a comprehensive emergency management plan, this really provides the framework for how the jurisdiction prepares for and responds to emergencies and disasters. It's a deliberate planning effort. It is required by state law, and it's updated every 5 years. As an ILA partner, the city of Mountlake Terrace is legally covered under the county's base plan, but our leadership did recognize the importance of engaging our partners in this planning effort. So this is really, the opportunity to enhance that preparedness and response coordination both within your city and also between the city and the county. And so here's a visual of how the CEMP plans fit together. We have the county CEMP base plan. It's really the overarching plan that guides DEM's emergency management program. And then we have those ESF annexes, and these outline the specific roles and responsibilities for each of the 15 ESF groups. And then we also have the CEMP annexes developed by our partners. And finally, we have functional annexes. And these annexes range from things like our recently developed evacuation and shelter in place annex. And then it will also include a planning effort that's kicking off this year that I'm really excited about, which is a earthquake annex with catastrophic elements. The county does not currently have this plan in place, and so it's going to be a big lift. There's a lot of players and partners involved, but I am really looking forward to it. And with that, I will hand it over to Gary.
Councilmember Sonmore.
When you said that, I just got kind of, because I've heard of 2 earthquakes in real locally around here just in this last week, and I'm sure there may have been others that I don't even know about. Why don't we have a plan yet? I mean, that just kind of.
I'm glad you asked that question. So the way that our CEMP and a lot of our emergency procedures at the county are set up, they are all hazards. And so sort of irrespective of what the disaster is, there are certain things that we put into place, certain things we know to do. The benefit of a functional annex is that we actually dissect down to like a specific hazard or function and engage our partners to actually have these conversations ahead of time about, hey, if it's the really bad earthquake, which is what this plan is going to focus on, then what do we expect will be disrupted? Communications, transportation, utilities, and in that first 72 hours or so, what can we put into place by position or by organization to happen without being in touch with each other and sort of trying to instill leaders' intent within departments, within cities and jurisdictions and nonprofits so that kind of some basic things will happen without someone waiting around for a boss to tell them what to do, so that we can kind of get some things going in terms of understanding what's going on in our neighborhoods and what's going on with key utilities. And then certain people that have responsibilities within these organizations will know to go check on some part of that utility system or some part of that transportation system. So it's kind of trying to set things up for a circumstance when we may not be able to talk to each other, and then we'll catch up with ourselves as we can get to emergency operations centers around the county, get into contact with each other via ham radio or amateur radio, and kind of build those connections that we're going to need. Because it doesn't make sense for us to very specifically plan things since we won't know how bad or exactly where or the severity, but it does make sense for us to have these conversations ahead of time and be ready when it happens, and then move into the more specific response and coordination when we can convene who we're able to convene around the county and put kind of our subject matter expertise to work.
So you're looking more in the global. When we started our EOC years ago, I know we handed out some of the wrenches so we could turn off our gas. We put lists together of what we should store. It was the nitty gritty, and it was wonderful, to hear about it. But you just kind of scared me when that there wasn't one in place. But you're saying there's guidelines out there.
Absolutely.
But you're looking at it and looking at how to do it more functionally and with all the annexes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, and with all of our jurisdictions, with our tribes, with all the agencies, state agencies, federal agencies, the nonprofits, the community organizations. And so that's why when Jamie talks about it being a big lift, it really is, because we don't expect that we can have one meeting, 2 meetings, and put something on paper and be done. I mean, this will be an ongoing process, and it will have, a lot of layers and nuances and overlap. And you mentioned sort of that personal and household preparedness. That's a component too. And we have other people in our office that work on that kind of thing. And so all of us that are sort of headed towards the same goal, which is preparedness and resiliency countywide, are doing it in a little bit different ways. And this is actually a really big part of that too. So don't mean to scare you. There are
When we were working with the RFA, we talked about how we would get people off the light rail and looking at if we have the apparatus to do that. And there's different things that have come on board in the years that have changed in our city. And so just looking back, it's almost imperative that we do it maybe in our city every so often. And I know when we went to the center, I remember where it's at, we really educated all our staff and especially the council and on what we could do when that emergency happened, because we know that some of our employees would want to go home to their families. So would there be backups to look at this? And it was extremely in-depth plan, and I'm hoping we can do that locally here too.
Absolutely.
And I was just going to ask too, if I remember right, it's been like 6 months ago, was it $30,000 the city paid into this? Is it?
Oh, goodness, I don't remember off the top of my head. That sounds about right.
About right, okay. I know it had gone up. And then when the annexing, I'll wait and ask some other questions later,
Absolutely.
since we were on earthquakes. So.
And actually, I have a clarification question for myself, which is, you were going to walk us through this plan. Would the Nisqually earthquake have activated whatever you're about to show us, just so I get an idea of what scope? Because I'm out of California, where it's got to be something for me to pay attention to.
That's also a very good question. So we're planning for the worst case scenario because we figure that if we do that, then we'll be able to handle the smaller things along the way. We would expect that this plan would have activated during Nisqually, not necessarily because there was a lot of damage across Snohomish County, but just for the simple fact that it absolutely tanked the 911 system because everybody called to say, was that an earthquake? And so we all within our office have folks that work with the 911 center. And so, we would have to support them and try to help bring in resources or bridge the gaps that they may experience when there's a whole lot of phone calls. So yes, we'll try to incorporate all the little stuff along the way too. And that was why Jamie mentioned catastrophic elements. This is like the worst thing we can imagine.
All right, thank you. Okay, so our annex, critical elements, there's three key ones. One, just touch on today, the roles and responsibilities, how we collect information, and then our operations and communications. I just want to talk a little bit roles and responsibilities on this slide. And it's kind of a two-way table here for this annex, which is really cool. So it's roles and responsibilities for before, during, and after. Right, so we have to go through each of those, which, there's a lot to talk about for each one of those elements. But then what we also did, and this is, again, I think the new format, we did that before, during, and after for city manager's office, deputy city manager's role, public works, finance. So it's a deep dive, right? And what was key, and thanks to your help, we really tried to reduce the eliminate redundancies. I think that was a couple of your comments here. There's like, oh, it looks like these two people are doing these things. Let's separate that out. Let's make sure there's just single activities for everybody. So that really helped us go through that. And again, information collection, that's throughout the whole process. And then operation communications, again, through the whole process. So the key, again, we didn't put necessarily names. We kept it to roles because who's going to be here, right, at the time. And, and also this is many years, we're not going to update this every year. So we just, as you'll read through this, you'll see city manager, public works director, all sort of that. And then those are really the groupings that when we answered questions, we broke out into these groups, as I talked about before. And then these are just three of the support agencies. I think we gathered about 15 to 20 support agencies that if you wanted to look at the plan, but the Department of Emergency Management, Snohomish Library, American Red Cross. And then when we got to these support agencies, what we did was we answered questions, we made up questions. What will we ask? What would we want to know from our partners? What would they be expecting from us? So what you'll see if you look through this is a list of questions. And it's just, when something bad happens, we're all going to be rushing around, but then this is our playbook. So we can, whoever it is, Carolyn, myself, Jeff Knighton, open up to American Red Cross. We got 12 questions of what to ask. So it's a plug and play. Chamber said they were cool. Well, this is the cool part about our plan. Okay, so we're cool too. I think this is a new element too, and So our team that I did not write this alone. So Carolyn, Jeff Knight, and myself, Scott King, police, Jeff Betts, Sienna, our communications manager, and then also my supervisors in Public Works. So there are, I believe, 8 community light lines, 8 or 9, I'm having trouble seeing, and remembering how many there are. But what we did is work through each one of these. So as an example, communications, transportation. Many questions with each one of those, but we sat down and really talked about what are we going to, again, what are we want to know, what are we going to have to look at, and each one is very different. I know where all the nearby hospitals and medical facilities are. I know where all kidney dialysis patients are, right? It's this really, and that's what we have to update it because things do change. But this was a heavy lift. I think we have 5 or 6 workshops where we all got together and worked on coming up with these questions to ask, and then how would we respond. So again, anybody can pick this up and start working with it. And in terms of our operations, this covers, 5 key topics here. Day-to-day changes during, as we step from preparedness to reaction to during the event and afterwards. We kind of step through and we kind of describe in here how things will likely change. What we don't know is how long, right, each period will be. So we talk a little bit about situational awareness and situational periods. But again, this is written well out so anybody can look at this and see, oh, okay, this is how we walk through an event. We talk about authorities and who can declare an emergency for the city, and that is, in our case, city manager, Jeff Knighton. We talk about the coordination. You showed your graphs there on who we're going to coordinate with. One example, could be during the earthquake, first thing I'm going to know is who's got water? Is Everett okay? Seattle, Tacoma, right? So and that will remind everybody if you're, walking through this, who are your partners, right? So you can call, see how they're doing, as maybe they need our help, or we could use theirs. Communication procedures, this is where this is both internal and external. So Sienna did the heavy lifting for how we're going to talk externally. And then Carolyn and I work closely together to figure out, what is the internal communication like from the different teams, from going to Jeff Knighton to you and back, to going to the EOC, to going to, you're talking to police and to fire. So that's all laid out in there. And again, we're trying to reduce redundancies. And then key resources, of course. This is both internally, again, everything that we had a nice list of all our vehicles, all of our equipment, fuel, all that sort of stuff. And then what our partners have, right? And one of the things I learned from this, one of the many things I learned from this was, there's gonna be a lot of requests on certain items from everybody. So we better talk beforehand because there's gonna be a run on the market for stuff. So how do we share in the time of, in time of emergency? This is why the practice and exercise is going to come about. And, Carolyn also was a big push to me to do this, is starting to look at, well, what contracts do we want to have now? So if we, things that we don't have here that we're going to want to get, but then let's talk with our partners too, because, maybe we have a joint contract, right, for some type of things. So that's kind of our presentation here. I did want to just say three outcomes that additional three outcomes that I learned from this process before I ask. One, what this helped us do was learn about radio communication. So we have a really good radio system. Going to give a plug for one of my staff, Jeff Rivers. But not only these are handheld that we can use when there's no power, but he, through this process, connected with a ham radio group. We actually have a ham radio group that goes every Tuesday in our EOC and practices. And there's a whole network of people, which none of us here at Public Works knew about. So we learned that. Two, through this work, because I got a little nervous too, working through this. So I've reached out to one colleague you've seen here before, our general manager at Alderwood Water District, So we're going to do a regional emergency exercise, just a local one, but with AWWD, ourselves, and the other wholesalers. We're not quite sure what we're going to do. It might be water contamination or something, but we're going to just plan together. And it's going to be an as-if scenario, and we're going to involve you somehow. By the way, I didn't mention that to you, but thank you for participating.
We're nimble.
Yes.
We can respond.
And then the final thing, just one other thing we need to think about, in the case of, what we talked about, the earthquake. If there's a substantial earthquake that really does damage to water pipes, right? We really, all of us in the region, need to think about maybe we should have extra pipes on hand, because everybody's going to be needing them. And, Seattle's the biggest. They're the supplier. They're going to need theirs as well too. So that's something we just have to talk about is, should all of us have, each entity, some storage in case of a big disaster, or maybe that's a regional storage location. But I got real nervous with that, right? Because that's, again, maybe we can handle the immediate, but what about getting back to normal, right? So that's another piece that this really, made me think about as well too. So thank you for your time, and we'll open that up for questions.
Excellent questions. Councilmember Sonmore.
Thank you for bringing up communication, because I think when we did it last time, if I remember, our officers would know, the SIRS tower, we were having issues that it couldn't handle the capacity, and it could fall over. It was a whole bunch of different things at that time, but the handheld radios are something on a certain frequency that wouldn't be interrupted when we all lose our cell phones. Is your playbook also, other than electronic, I'm assuming there's paper copies and different things as well too?
Right.
Years ago, and I haven't seen it as much as I used to, my work would train us, and we'd have toe tags at our desk, and we'd have triage bags at our desk, and they would have huge, it's like what we used to keep our property, extra property that the police would, the big storage units of different things, of bandages and all different things. And it just went away. We just don't do anything like that anymore. And so is our staff being trained on going down to the nitty gritty with the big disaster? Because we all hear that, I'm hoping it doesn't ever happen, but the big earthquake that we're all talking about, and losing and having those extra pipes and things. And I bring it up, just because we haven't talked about it in a long time, and to the detail of probably where we need to be to get us all back up. And when I say toe tags, I don't mean to scare anybody or be strange with it, but they taught us how to look at somebody to see who needed the help first, and it was really eye-opening for us employees that didn't have a lot of experience. And I was so fortunate to have that, and I'm just hoping that a lot of other people get that training. And of course, I need to be refreshed too, and also with CPR is the other thing I was going to bring up. That was something that we always had to be certified in, and now we look to our police department, and a lot of businesses, for their certain reasons, do not offer it like they used to. They used to give us mouth shields, and we'd wear them on our badge, and then we'd carry CPR badges, but I don't see that as much now. Has something changed, or I'm hoping that we're going to go back to certain things.
I'd be happy to address at least part of your question, Councilmember Sonmore. So we've been trying to reinstate internal training in a number of levels over the last couple of years. We've just this year reiterated a training we had about 18 months ago on both what to happen if we have a significant incident in the building, where to go, where safe places are. Lanwin, one of our staff in the city manager's office, has been working closely with Sergeant Porter and others to make sure each building has trauma kits, like you're talking about, more than a first aid kit, but more significant. We've added AEDs, and we're working with the fire department on evacuation plans, and we're about to roll out a video actually in the next week that Land's been working on to make sure that people can watch that training at any moment, not just like when we have a once-a-year training. So we have a document now on, evacuation, which is a little different than an earthquake, but could be used in an earthquake situation. And when we've had the fire department come and do some training, and they did talk about earthquake and what to do in the building and so forth. So we are working on that kind of training. We're trying to do it at least every other year, if not every year. But we'd like to have some online training tools so that when we get new employees and so forth, they have that information. We haven't done that level of training yet, but we do offer first aid, CPR to anyone who wants to take it. But that's a great idea as well, what you're talking about. Yeah.
If somebody has practiced it, they're more likely to have that muscle memory to do it during an emergency. But our city offers CPR to our residents.
We offer it to our staff. So, but we could certainly talk about having a CPR for residents at some point. Yeah.
The Red Cross offers CPR training. And the American Heart Association. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Our fire came out with a new CPR process about
good. Yeah.
8 years ago, and we haven't talked about it much lately. I know Chief Eastman is about to retire next week, and so I just remember him coming in and saying that Fire District 1 at the time had a certain way of doing resuscitation, and we are without the breathing and different things, and so it was but we haven't had a lot of that lately, so.
I was just going to offer that Red Cross sometimes offers that in different venues, and the American Heart Association has an online course that kind of takes you through all kinds of like stop the bleed and basic first aid and heart AED, use of AEDs and so forth. So.
Oh, that's what we used to have. Jamie Gravel as one of our council people who used to work, and I wrote it down. And I loved the saying, FEMA was our lifeline in your presentation, and so that was probably another reason we had so much education on it, because she'd come back with her FEMA team and train us. So thank you.
Other comments or questions? Councilmember Murray.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all for the presentation. I will say I am incredibly grateful for your work. As somebody who's been responsible for work safety plans, and then I happened to meet an emergency manager from a neighboring community in King County when I was running for office. It's like one of the first things I'd asked about when I started on council, and while I appreciate that Snohomish County has a plan, I am also very grateful that we are moving towards a specific plan for our community and our residents, and making sure that our staff are prepared, because to your point, in an emergency situation, and I think to Councilmember Sonmore's point, when you have that, when you've practiced it, when you have it in writing, it is much easier to respond appropriately in an emergency situation. And so I am incredibly grateful that hopefully we never need it, but I am really grateful that we are going to have that plan in place to respond and to support our residents should we ever need it. So thank you for all of the work. I did have a couple of things that I've kind of lost at this point. One, I was curious, so there's a lot of acronyms. Is there a cheat sheet somewhere? Is there a...
Yes, we swim in alphabet soup in emergency management. Yes. Yes, we do have cheat sheets that we can share.
That would be fabulous. I was following some of them, most of them, but then I was like, what does that mean? So anyway, I would welcome that, and that probably would be helpful as we start to get more familiar as a council and a community with the work that you guys do and the work of, or the language of the annex. I think that's most. I will say I was having a conversation at AWC this week, so we were down in Olympia with colleagues from all around the state, and to your point, there has been, the flooding, and, there was the bomb cyclone a couple years ago, and we were talking about emergency response and a group of elected council members. And I will say one of the things that came up that I imagine is probably part of your plan, but maybe not so much the emergency response part, but just the community support part in an emergency. There was a lot of talk about how a lot of the need outside of obviously shelter and food and things that we do often think about was just like creating space for people to charge electronics, right? Because we've become so dependent on cell phones for communication, that really was like being able to open up City Hall and have enough like charging stations for folks to be able to stay in communications as they are out of power for perhaps extended periods of time was something that came up that I hadn't thought of. So I guess I wanted to share that while we were here. And then I think maybe just to kind of build off Councilmember Sonmore's kind of talk about training, and I'd imagine maybe you've already had conversations with Commander King. I know we've been working on our community emergency response team training here locally. I've been through that training. I would plug that training. So South County Fire has a upcoming training that I looked up real quick as we were chatting. So for those that aren't familiar, they train participants in basic disaster response skills such as fire safety, light search and rescue, team organization, disaster, medical operations. Really critically important that we have folks in our community who are prepared and ready to support efforts. As our city staff are doing the things that they are trained to do, there's going to be a lot of need amongst individuals in our community, and being able to support one another while we are navigating potentially an emergency response is really important. So they have an upcoming session that registration is open for now, March 27th, 28th, and 29th. Those are all-day classes, and you do have to attend all 3 days, but I will say it is worth the investment of time. You will feel better in terms of your own individual safety, your own family's ability to navigate a disaster, and your ability to support your neighbors and community. So anyway, excited about the work, appreciative for the work, and thank you.
Just wanted to add, we, the CERT is mentioned in the plan, and I think that's the only name I think I kept in there was Scott King. I had to take that out and make it anonymous, but he and the great work for CERT are in there. So again, people, like you said, people, you know, if somebody wasn't aware of it, they will be when reading it.
Love it. Thank you.
And you heard that, Commander King. That means you can't retire. You're in the book. Sorry. Councilmember Doyle.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. First of all, I love acronyms because I'm in medicine. So you're my people. My acronyms are a little bit different, but I appreciate that. And to Councilmember Murray's point about being prepared and ready to support efforts, I was thinking about how much of this plan might involve communications, and I'm thinking about what internal resources we have. Right. So as a healthcare provider, people call me all the time. Can I take this medication? I left this out on the counter. It wasn't in the fridge. Can I take it? All kinds. And we undoubtedly, not that it's the city's responsibility to coordinate that, but just as someone's family emergency preparedness, like you probably have a nurse on your block. You probably have an NP. You might have a doctor. You have that person that when you don't need to call 911 for this, but you have someone in between who you might know in your personal circle. So I think it'd be helpful for us to just ask residents, like, do you know what your neighbor does? Are they an RN? Like in an emergency, they can help you. And, you know, and when you don't need critical care right now. My other question was, how are resources shared right now? So if, let's say there was a countywide disaster, right? The big one hits and everyone wants, name a piece of equipment. How is that decided now? Is that decided based on like the number of people affected, how critical it is? Is it the area affected? And is it the policy group who decides that? 10 people call you because they all want your library for shelter. How is that decided?
I'll take a run at that from the county perspective, and I assume it's similar in the jurisdictions as well. But as it starts in the field, on the ground, and those incident commanders that are there, whether they're fire, law enforcement, or maybe public works, you know, they're asking for what they need. And then as it grows and escalates, or if as it's widespread, then that information flows to the county EOC, and then we try to fill those requests from either, well, first, internally to each organization, they might have contracts already. Those contracts usually get, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but a lot of them get prioritized ahead of time in terms of, hey, we serve the entire city, so we would like to reserve the right to this many, or something like that, depending on what it is. And then we at the county collect these requests. And in as much as they don't directly compete, it's fairly easy to fill them and help everyone do what they need to do. The policy group is convened that's one very specific example why. If we had an event that was creating a need for something that was needed all across the county, then there would have to be involvement with the elected officials of the cities and with the elders of tribes and with the county to understand, you know, what is the need, what's at stake, how do we prioritize this and then have to make a decision. And so part of the update of this plan at the county level as well as at the city level was talking openly about the policy group and really sharing that this is an important thing to think about ahead of time and identify how that might come together, how it links with the county. Like, for instance, the executive summers has two. There's one that is his internal department heads, and then there is one that is involves more of the county because depending on what's going on, he might need to be talking to elected officials and chiefs and so forth across the county. So it's something anyone wants to think about, but it's something that has to be thought about and talked through ahead of time.
And then on the local, it really is kind of a ditto, but if we just had, as an example, just a local issue that was very serious for us, I'm going to throw out another acronym, ICS, Incident Command Structure, right? We would fall into that, and the logistics chief or the logistics team would be taking all that information in about who needs what, all the various requests, so everybody knows it's got to go to that team. When there be a competing resource issue, you'd open up the playbook. Oh, I think we have to call the policy team and figure out how are we going to deal with this. So that's kind of how we work, and then it's really, it just ramps up. And then there's this, make a plug for Web EOC, computer software, that I think that's what you're going to be I think you have that available.
We do. So it's actually the counties, or sorry, the states. Washington Emergency Management Division has the overall Web EOC platform. The counties and the cities that want to can access that. And then when we have a resource that, say, Mountlake Terrace can't fill and they ask us and we can't fill it, then we use Web EOC to elevate that request to the state and say, hey, we need this. And we did that a couple of times during the recent flooding to get state resources that we just couldn't fill locally.
Other comments or feedback? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for being here. I think I saw you guys at least 3 or 4 times last year through Snohomish County Tomorrow or Snohomish County City meetings, talking about the county emergency management plan and as we're updating that and everything. But it's great to be able to put it in perspective as to all the things we talked about at the countywide level, how we need to be implementing that right here in Mountlake Terrace. So thank you for being here. Welcome to Mountlake Terrace. Thank you for sharing that. It occurred to me that it's been a little while since we did an EOC tour. At least 2 new council members should do that tour. I don't know if you guys ever did it. So I think it'd be a great opportunity for us to set that up, do an EOC tour to be able to take this, information and then be able to put it on the ground and really understand and want to walk through. You talk about that memory, doing things by muscle memory. Thank you. That I think that. It's been a while since we've done it. I think it was a great learning opportunity for those of us that have been through it. And I think it would be great for anybody that hasn't to be able to walk through the facility and the 911 backup center to really understand the dynamics of how all this works and be able to. So, for instance, you talk about the different roles of staff. Well, this council has a role too, right, during emergencies. And so, being able to be in the EOC and understand what our role is as council members to be able to help in emergencies and be able to, which is mostly stay out of the way, but be of assistance as much as we can. But I think that, so anyway, whenever we can get that set up, that'd be great. But Thank you again. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you.
Councilmember Matsumoto.
Thank you. So are you talking about the Mountlake Terrace tour? Okay. Also, we just moved into a new 911 center recently. Maybe that could be added. Can that be part of the tour too? The one on Everett Mall Way?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
That would really, because that's showing, because when we toured our 911 center, when we had it in Mountlake Terrace, it was an eye-opener because they were taking in calls right there as you're touring it.
Oh, okay.
And I think that would be fantastic to be a part of our background, so that when you talk to people out there, that you actually did experience some of those calls.
Councilmember Wright, yes.
Is our 911 center still hot here? So could we tour that one and see what's going on in Everett?
But you two may know more than me on this. There is equipment there, and I'm not exactly sure what else goes on in that part of the building.
Could they see anything?
Yes, we can arrange a tour of the 911 center at our operations building. Is that what you're referring to? The one, yeah.
It was hot instead of dry.
Yes.
I mean, the new one would be interesting to see too, but I was just kind of curious.
Mhm.
Can you walk in there and see what's going on?
We can have the manager give us a tour for sure. Yes. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, your mic.
It was a backup so that if anything happened to the one in Everett, they'd have to drive. So for about a half an hour, there won't be any calls going in. But it's a backup. It has to be warm and ready to go immediately.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just to follow up. The facility that we have at our operations center is prepared to be a backup facility in case the main one goes down. But I think, and so at least having a tour of EOC and then wandering through our backup center would be, I think, great for all of us. But for those of you that have never gone through a live 911 center, I'd encourage you to encourage somebody to help set that up for those that might be interested.
Sure.
Because it is a fascinating experience, a great learning experience to understand the dynamics of what's going on behind the scenes, when people are calling 911 and how they're responding and how it's all set up.
Other comments or questions? All right, then we'll close it out with me, which, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. You addressed two of mine already, the visit and also our roles, which I'll just parlay that to say, I was curious why we weren't in that mix. We might be tasked with staying out of the way, but that's important to know in the spirit of we do have a responsibility, and to our two new people, that might be a surprise, that if there's an emergency, you don't get to help out your home, you need to come to the EOC and handle business, which is very eye-opening. I remember that comment, do I get to bring my family at least? With my dog? But nonetheless, the actual moving forward, I would just remind people, especially those of that AWC last night, there was an earthquake in Lacey last night. Did you feel it? Which is just to remind us that this is happening all the time, and if you're not in that area, you don't know, which is to say thank you and speed this up, because this is probably sooner than we think. Hopefully not the one you're preparing for, but Nisqually times 2 is probably not that far off for those who weren't here for that. But that said, I would just leave it with a shout out to South County Fire and a reminder, if it wasn't explained, they actually will come to you. In fact, we're using them right now at the Linwood Neighborhood Center to train our volunteers. So I would say, since we have annexed in, we now covered in our taxes, let's go ahead and make sure our folks are getting the most out of that. And I'm thinking our residents there, although city staff sound like they already have a plan. And I just wanted to leave something that from the South County Fire training, although it was about CPR, they cover some other topics, so you can do that, which is to say, did you know fire extinguishers expire? I did not know that. And so in that regard, they'll cover some really basic things that you probably have been taking for granted. So just putting that out there as well. And we will leave it there because you've had a long day and you still have 2 more talks. So let's call it a day. That said, I'll bring it up now. As our Public Works Director, if we're going to go do this tour, it'd be good for you to squeeze in a twofer and say, let's see your facility out there. We got lean-tos that are leaning far too far.
Yes.
And it's been a while since we've seen that. And so again, with the new people, I think that will be eye-opening, and that will just be another example of the buildings that we are responsible for.
Absolutely.
There's quite a few up there that are in, I won't say disrepair, but they're just a smidgen away from disrepair. So,
Thank you. Will do.
Thank you. All right. Thank you all. Appreciate your time and energy and the work that you do. Up next, I think one of our most important conversations throughout the year, and this time it's on our third quarter. Presentation on the third quarter. Do we need a break?
Yep.
No, sounds like we're going to take a break. So it is 8:45. I know how to do math. And we'll take it till 5 minutes, so let's take it to 10 till. And then we will hear from a presentation third quarter police department report with our amazing police chief, Pete Call and his awesome commanders, Mike Haynes and Scott King. I am really tired.
Mush them together.
Yeah. Welcome back, everybody. And now we have our presentation on the third quarter police department report with our police chief and our commanders.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. For the sake of folks in the audience, I'm Pete Kahn, the police chief for the city of Mountlake Terrace. To my right is Commander King. He's in charge of command services, which is, roughly speaking, all of investigations, evidence, records, things like that. To his right is Commander Mike Haynes, who's in charge of operations. We're going to talk a bit today about statistics for the third quarter of last year, and also about goals and objectives. Keep in mind that when we're talking about statistics, we're comparing quarters to quarters. So what we're comparing the third quarter of last year to is the third quarter of the year before. Contextually, it doesn't mean a lot compared to like year-end statistics, which we'll be giving to you in the next report. We've just made this presentation pretty much raw statistics. There's not a case study or a presentation. We'll give you some higher level entertainment in the next meeting and talk about more complex and complete issues. Anyway, first of all, speaking of the word context, I put this in front of you because I want to throw it out there every now and then for context as part of our brand. One of the methods we use to achieve excellence is some ancient history from the late 40s and 50s called Rickover's Rules. Admiral Hyman Rickover was the father of the nuclear navy. And we can all probably agree that they have a pretty dangerous, complex mission, yet they have one of the best safety records in the world. He had 7 rules for success, which he was more than eager to share with you. I'll go over those really briefly for you. You must have a rising standard of quality over time and well beyond what is required for any minimum standard. People running complex systems must be highly capable. Supervisors have to face bad news when it comes and take problems to a level high enough to fix those problems. You must have a healthy respect for the dangers and risks of your particular job. Training must be constant and rigorous. You must have a robust auditing process to ensure that what you say you are doing, you are in fact doing. In our case, it's accreditation. The organization and members must have the ability and willingness to learn from the mistakes of the past. Part of our brand, you'll see it from time to time. Moving on to our goals philosophy, still relying a lot on the goals philosophy 6 pillars of 21st century policing brought forth by former President Obama in 2015. We're talking many years later, and this is still the best thing I've seen in a while. So 2 pieces of advice from 2 very wise men in our past. Talking about goals. I promise I won't do death by PowerPoint here, but I want to emphasize a few points. We provide a safe community for everyone, but we need to do that in an efficient, cost-effective manner. We want to use department resources effectively. One of our favorite things to talk about is our unmanned aerial vehicle program. We have a very extensive drone program, probably one of the best ones in the county, probably in the Tri-County area. We leverage technology for the purpose of increasing safety of our officers and community. We use unmanned aerial vehicles to make it safer for the public and for officers. In the next presentation, we'll have some drone footage for you. We not only use it aerially to find people, to locate people, or to photograph scenes, but we actually fly it into buildings to do building searches before officers go in, which really lessens the likelihood of a confrontation. It also lets us gather information for when we do have to go in a building. Another way we utilize our resources effectively is we join task forces when they're applicable to us. Presently, we have a detective embedded in the Violent Offenders Task Force from the U.S. Marshals. We use that a lot. We focus on community-oriented policing and outreach. We continue to have the embedded social worker program. We have some good news about that program to talk to you tonight. I'll leave that to Commander King. We promote and provide outreach programs like Cops and Clergy. I invite any of you to attend that. I see Councilmember Page there on occasion. I look forward to seeing you at the next one. We utilize the e-bike program. Some time ago, we bought some electric bikes for patrolling the parks. When the weather clears up and we can actually get officers out on bikes, you'll see us doing that. We participate in regional intelligence groups. Really, that sounds like a fancy title, but it really is just detectives talking to each other up and down the I-5 corridor. And I think we mentioned also mentioned the Violent Offender Task Force. We incorporate education on long-term solutions into enforcement. We work with other city departments. One thing we never want to do in this organization become siloed, where the finance folks don't talk to the cops don't talk to the firemen. You see that so many times in organizations, and it's a sure road to failure. We're not going to fail for that reason. Recruit and retain quality personnel. I've talked about that every time we're trying to replace open vacancies now. To try to do some succession planning, develop next generation of department leaders. As you probably guess, I'm not going to be here forever, neither two people to my right. So we need to identify some people that are future leaders to take over. And one of the ways I do that is to put the people who work for me, push their comfort zone. You become really good at a few things and want to keep doing that. What we as workers are reluctant to do is to do things we're not comfortable with. So we need to make our employees work in areas they're not comfortable. Let them make mistakes and grow from those mistakes. You learn a lot more from your mistakes than your successes. We focus on finding candidates of differing backgrounds and diverse communities. Very successful. The appearance of our police department is considerably different than it was 39 years ago when I started here, and that's a good thing. We're regional leaders and set an example for modern policing as it relates to community standards. We listen to community feedback. Commander Haynes will be talking about some of the systems we have in place to do that. We update and modify policy based upon what we see and what we hear. We develop and promptly instruct internal training programs. We focus on fostering a culture of partnership. We'll be as transparent as possible. We can't always be transparent all the time, but we certainly can be in the end game. We're proactive in incorporating improvements, and we're fiscally responsible. These are our goals, remain our goals over time. A little bit of change from time to time, but you'll see this again and again in our presentations. Now I'll turn it over to one of the folks to my right.
Commander Mike Keynes, I'm in charge of the Patrol Division, and I'm going to be giving you a quick overview of third quarter patrol activity. Calls for service came in just under 6,000, which is in the neighborhood of what we see across the 5-year chart on the slide you're looking at. Community outreach contacts continue to be a point of emphasis for patrol, despite the apparent reduction from last year. The smaller numbers related to the use of an additional call type, which is referred to as an area emphasis, which was also used 385 times in the third quarter of 2025. Reports remain consistent with the previous 4 years, and traffic safety also continues to be a priority for patrol. The increase in traffic stops this year is mostly attributed to the reintroduction of the traffic safety officer. Education in lieu of enforcement is our focus and is evident with an infraction or citation being issued at the rate of approximately 1 per 6 traffic stops. The goal is to have positive interactions with motorists and improve safety with a teamwork type approach. Arrests are in line with previous years. The increase between 22 and 23 is attributed to the end of COVID restrictions with more people venturing out of their homes. DV crimes remain steady in comparison to previous years. Property crimes all dropped off a bit in the third quarter. That being said, I suspect when we zoom out and look at the entire year, the reduction won't be quite as significant as what you're looking at there on that slide. Driving under the influence offenses trended upwards and largely speaks to the traffic safety emphasis work that patrol officers are doing on a daily basis to keep us safe on the roads. There were 10 violent offenses in the third quarter, a 25% increase from last year. The numbers, that said, the numbers are small, which accentuates the size of the increase. Overall, Mountlake Terrace continues to be a very safe community. Slide here is a slide that represents infractions that were issued by race in the third quarter, and the last one, which is arrest by race. And with that, I'll turn it over to Commander King.
All right. I'll start out with community outreach. So for third quarter cops and clergy, the meeting, we had an opportunity to provide active shooter training to any community member who chose to participate. It turned out great. Officers continue to use our Blue Bridge program, which has been very successful. I'll cover more of this in the 2025 year-end report,
But we utilized, since we started the program, $1,249 from the Blue Bridge grant, helping community members in need. And we also raised $1,110, which is just great. I'm super excited that our community is getting involved with that. And I'll read one interaction that one of our officers had during the third quarter. So Officer Freusland assisted an elderly victim of fraud who had his whole bank account locked due to the fraud. He had $10 left to his wallet. He needed assistance with gas so he could make it to his appointments. Officer Freusland had him drive to the gas station, and she filled up his tank with the Blue Bridge card so he could get to his appointments while his bank account was being figured out. So I thank the community for getting involved with that and helping us out. It's been a great program. So records and animal control. The record unit continues to receive training from a variety of sources, including the Washington State Law Enforcement and Records Association and the Washington Association of Public Records Officers. Our goal is to maximize the knowledge and capability of our record staff. Quarter three, our record staff processed 625 cases, 48 collisions, and 148 public disclosure requests. And that's a huge number for the public disclosure request, and they put a lot of time and effort into those. Our animal control took 12 cases and had 4 potentially dangerous dog hearings. As Chief Cobb mentioned, training is a big deal for us. We have a robust training program. Officers Zarnick and Ball completed TASER instructor. Officers Ratliff, Ball, and Russell completed field training officer certification. So like Chief said, we have people who retire, so our old field training officers on around. We need new blood for training our new officers that are coming in. And it's nice having newer officers that have been through the academy recently, training some of our new staff coming in. So it's good to keep that moving. A newly promoted Detective Look completed several investigation courses, including basic homicide investigation and fire-related death investigation. Officers Ostrowkin and Van Orman completed advanced roadside impaired driving enforcement certification. Like Commander Haynes talked about, our effort in the community to make this a safer place to drive is a big deal to us. So we continue to train our officers in that. And evidence technician Custer processed 351 pieces of evidence and destroyed 461 pieces. She's constantly staying busy in the evidence room, trying to keep that place spick and span and removed of old evidence that doesn't need to be in there anymore. Any questions?
Outstanding. Questions, comments, feedback? Oh, Mayor Pro Tem, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, thank you. I won't go into a lot of detail on everything that you guys do, other than to say thank you for your leadership, and please be sure to thank our officers for their service. We're very blessed in this community to have you guys as our team and as our officers looking out for our safety and doing it in a responsible, community-oriented way. I think that's critically important. Probably more on that during your next presentation. The one thing I wanted to highlight was the Scout program. You mentioned the good news there. That is fantastic news. I'm really excited about that. You mentioned the Blue Bridge. I think that's an incredible program. Really thrilled that we have that, and we are continuing to be able to utilize that. What I'd like to ask is if we can, one of the many things that I'm extremely proud of with our regional collaboration group with the South County region is our partnership with the South County Fire and the Crisis Response Program. And what I'd love to have is a presentation, I think, to share with the rest of the council and the community about what we're doing for crisis response and how we're working together with our social embedded worker,
Embedded social worker?
Social worker, embedded in police, the Scout program, how we're utilizing Blue Bridge with that, and with a crisis response, and how all the different key pieces. I mean, one of the things I appreciate you mentioning is how we will not fail our community based on lack of communication between our police and fire. and the crisis response program is one of the key areas that is important for us to be coordinating between our fire and our police and the community, and being able to connect people with the right social services when they're in need. So I think it would be really helpful for us to have a presentation, joint presentation, I think, on that end, to be able to share with everybody what we're doing and what resources we have available to help serve those most in need in our community. But again, thank you for your service and your work and your leadership.
Maybe you expand a little bit on what the good news is about the Scout program.
So-
that was quite a negotiation process, and you may not all be aware of what happened.
So for the Scout program, we had a pretty good price tag last year because we had, so Scout, that's our embedded social worker program. And we were working with the county to have that here. And we had a pretty big grant to cover, boy, it must have been about 80 or 90% of it, really. The grant wasn't available any longer, so the price tag of that just pretty much tripled from what we were paying. And fiscally, it just wouldn't be responsible to continue that at the cost they were giving us. And so I had a conversation with the people over at Scout and told them what our situation was. And she went and talked to some of her supervisors about where we were. And not only us, but Linwood was in the same spot and a couple of other cities. And based on some of those conversations, they decided that it is much more important to provide these services throughout the county than it is to get this money coming in. And there is tax money that's being sent to the county to cover some of these things, and it should be used for all the cities, not just Snohomish County, the sheriff's office there. So we were able to get back down to the price tag we were paying before. So now we just need to work out the contract for that.
And that'll be paid for out of the opioid funds that we've received from the state during some of those large lawsuits and settlements. So the funds are available. The number is far lower than the first number quoted. I mean, if I could buy a car that way, I'd do it. But I was actually surprised at the counteroffer. I was actually astounded. So good. Turned out well.
Outstanding. And just for the record, you said the opioid money will pay for that. Just for folks at home who might not be able to hear that. Any other questions, comments? Councilmember Sonmore.
Just keep us posted on House Bill 2489. I'm wondering how that will affect our city. One of the things is, I'm not sure how to read this yet, but laws and policies that punish people who are homeless for engaging in necessary life-sustaining activities in public spaces inflict harm on already vulnerable individuals. I know that it's still going through. The first reading was January 14th, and I'm just wondering how that will affect your department and our city as well on some of the changes that are coming out, or the bills that, I don't know if they're going to go through or not yet, but some of them are going to have impact on police.
I'm not that familiar with the content of that legislation. I know it's in the editing phase. I've read some of the same things online we all have, and I have some concerns about some of the stuff that are in it. But I think we all need to realize that this is really based on Supreme Court and federal court decisions. The Boise decision that actually threw us into this mess has been changed, so we're still operating under those principles. But the legislature in Olympia, I think it might be a little early to comment in terms of what I think or see. It's just pretty much an opinion. It'd be pretty hypothetical conversation. But we're keeping an eye on that, absolutely.
Yes, please.
Thank you,
Councilmember
Mayor.
Murray.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I always appreciate the updates and presentations about what's going on, and I appreciate especially hearing about all of the good stuff. Thank you for, I think we talked last time you were here about kind of being able to see a longer stretch of kind of some of those numbers so that we have more context in terms of like whether a number is kind of, a short term, I think we were looking typically about like what happened last year and what happened this year, and it was harder to understand kind of the context of were numbers going up, down, stable, and so I really do appreciate kind of that longer look in terms of the numbers that we're seeing in the presentation, so thank you for that update. Also appreciate the continued focus on traffic enforcement, and like, I don't appreciate seeing those DUI numbers up, but I appreciate knowing that if folks are out there and driving unsafely, that they are much more likely to meet somebody who will ensure that they don't continue to drive unsafely in our community. So thank you for that. Would you talk about, you talked about the area emphasis, Commander Hayes. Can you just talk about a little bit more about kind of what that is and how that maybe differs from community policing that you've typically done?
It's really the same thing. I think a COP is usually an individual contact with, you know, a person that maybe is unhoused or dealing with other adversity in their life, right? But the area emphasis is more of a neighborhood type project where we work on solving neighborhood problems. So, and those could range, you know, from anything from noise complaint to parking to whatever, right? Whatever issues they're confronting. So officers will go out there and focus on trying to find a solution involving everybody in the neighborhood.
And was there, I guess, a kind of a goal or a reason around kind of splitting those out in terms of better understanding the work that you guys were doing?
It's mostly just the officer discretion. I mean, we encourage them to take advantage of their discretion. So, you know, I think they just try to focus on, you know, whatever issues are thrown at them on a daily basis. And it could be, you know, community outreach contacts, or it could be the area emphasis issues, right? Most of those are assigned by the supervisors, the shift supervisors, and they keep me updated on what they're doing, and I appreciate the efforts they're making.
No, absolutely. I think they make a big difference. So I appreciate it too. And it's interesting to, I guess, better understand how that work is being done. So thank you for that.
You betcha.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments or feedback? Seeing none, I will close it out with myself, and I'm going to stick with the theme of A. First, I want to do an applaud. You mentioned cops and clergy, and I wanted to applaud you all. One of the times, I think it was 2 times back, you moved to the senior center and did an amazing job. Our team did an amazing job educating, I think it was probably about 15 maybe folks there, and it was on fraud and how to just keep yourself safe. And it was just wonderful that we went there. Deputy City Manager was there. I believe, no, somebody else was there. Who was there? I feel like there was another council member there. Nonetheless, just the fact that you didn't expect people to come to us. Instead, we went there, and I just wanted to applaud that and encourage that because, yes, I think people want the information. They just don't want to go out of their way to get the information, which is an interesting dynamic. And then I'll move to an apology, and don't worry, we are going to end in anger, but it's not about you. Apology, which is right in this space. I had the opportunity to do an interview with Linwood Times, and I missed an opportunity. I was singing your praises, and I could not remember Blue Ridge, but I talked about it in the abstract. So just wanted to say how much I appreciate that program and the discretion. I think you recall when we were doing this, one of the concerns was, well, if the officers have their discretion and we know there's something as implicit bias, how is that going to work? And I have just witnessed in my own time that you're being very thoughtful in how you're helping folks and across the spectrum, which again, you know, you don't want to build in a unexpected consequence, if you will, because again, you would have just gotten feedback and it would have been critical and negative. So in that regard, I hope in that regard you're sharing more of those stories so people can actually see this program in action. When apparently it's working because people donated themselves or invested, I would say. They didn't donate, they invested. Now that gets me to anger, and I don't know that there's anything you can do. But I will just say, when I spend a lot of time outside every night, and Wednesday night, once again, I watched a drone start down in the south and just cruise across our city skyline, and it disappeared into the skyline, and I was like, what on earth is happening right now? Which is just to say, is there no regulations around this? Is there nothing we can do? I mean, it just seems inappropriate on so many levels. But again, I know that's not necessarily what you can do, but I just put it out there because it's very frustrating.
The drone situation is a situation where technology has overtaken the law. We just haven't caught up. But there is a lot of privacy issues involved. I mean, who knows who's looking at what, photographing what, and those are concerns we all share. I mean, this is America. We're not used to people looking above our head and seeing what's in our backyard. I have concerns about that, but until legislation catches up with reality, I think it's something we're just going to combat. But there are some ways that if we can get numbers off that drone, if in fact has some, we can maybe take some action. We also can intervene if necessary if there's a person that's known to be doing this, and there are several. But yeah, it's a real problem and it concerned all of us. It shows up at our scenes.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming it's a news camera or somebody being curious, but I don't think it's safe to always assume that. It makes me feel very uncomfortable as it does you.
Yeah. Well, I just appreciate it in case folks haven't noticed. It's very unnerving. I'm going to just say straight up because I'm in my backyard and I know it's way up there, but I also know these cameras have great reception. Right? So I'm like, okay, not that I'm doing anything, but it's still like, it is my backyard for a reason. But then I also just think, man, it just literally cruised the entire city, so which who knows what your footage you're getting and what you're going to do with that information, which brings me to another anger, which again, I don't know that there's anything you all can do here, but I will just put it out as something for everyone to hear because it broke my heart. I was still in Olympia and I was with one of our legislators and he pointed out that ICE activity, in particular, the abandoned cars, that they're in essence being used as bait. And so the question was, you're taking let's let's put on pause whoever was abducted. And instead, the resource is still for the family, but now you're creating we're creating situations to where we're taking away livelihood. Like, I can't come get my car so I can go get groceries so I can take my kid to school. Heaven forbid they're wearing a bunny hat and ears and a Spider-Man backpack. They're very much a threat these days, apparently. But there was an example in Everett where the car was just left in a very unreasonable location. You grabbed what you wanted, and I did mean to turn that person into an item, not a human, because that's clearly not what's happening right now. But you then left safety for the city to deal with. And thankfully, I don't think that's happened here, but I will say my understanding is we did have an abandoned car on that last sweep that they've done. And I have to call it the last sweep because they've probably done more and we just don't know about it. Because...
The abandoned car was left in the south end of town.
Yeah.
The abandoned car was left in the south end of town next to the grocery outlet.
Okay.
So it has occurred. And I've talked to other police chiefs in the area just yesterday. That's a pretty common theme we see throughout. It's most unfortunate. And you hit the nail just on the head about the impact it has on the family, the community, and now us.
Yeah.
Because we're cleaning up someone else's mess.
Yeah.
You're absolutely accurate.
Okay. So, and again, that's what I'm like, it's not anything you can do, but I guess I would just say, is there something you can do? Because the conversation progressed to, well, then the car's towed, which I will just tell you, I, to this day, remember my scooter was stolen twice. Once by the person who stole it, and then when they recovered it, it was literally like 2 blocks away. And it went to the shipyard, whatever it was, not police, but private company, and they get a month to tell you they have it. It's something ridiculous, and then you can't pay those fees as a college student. So I had my vehicle stolen twice. And I've never forgotten that, and that was last century, for the record. So in the spirit of like, man, they're adding compounding problems. And I guess that's my way of saying, hopefully we didn't tow that car that was left behind. Maybe we had no choice. I guess I'm just trying to figure out, is there anything we can do? And you don't have to answer that now on a hot mic, but just know it literally broke my heart, even though I know it's been happening, but now I know, right? So now it's breaking my heart. But just again, if there's something we can do, I would love to at least put that in the mix of conversations to be had, and I'll just leave it there, but please.
I can address that somewhat. I mean, we will do whatever we can to reunite that vehicle with family or friends or whoever can use it, right? We don't just go out and tag cars and impound them. We make a significant effort with every vehicle to identify the owner or whoever and give them the opportunity to come retrieve the vehicle before we take action like that. So, and I would encourage, if it's on private property or on in a business lot or something like that, that the business owner or the property owner inquire with us to see if we can do something before they have it impounded, and we'd be happy to accommodate that.
Outstanding, thank you. And so I will add the last A of accolade, and that's really for you all of us as residents, which is, I will just speak for myself. We've had 2 incidences where there was a car that was just sitting out there, and I knew it wasn't part of the neighborhood. Thankfully, I'm good friends with our neighbors, like literally around the corner, everybody, and we tracked down who owned it. And in both cases, it was people who basically left their car to go to the airport. And the reason they did that is they said, because Mountlake Terrace is a heck of a lot more safe than my parking garage or wherever they left their car normally during the day. And they literally bring it to Mountlake Terrace to leave it, and it sits there quietly until they come back. So just want a weird accolade, but a pretty cool one, because it was like, what? All right, well, that's kudos to us, I guess. Come get your car, though. All right, so that's it. Any other questions, comments, or feedback? Please.
I'm just,
Councilmember
it's a
Sonmore.
curiosity question. So we just had a van parked in our neighborhood, and I believe they knew who it was because we've seen this van, but the police were there when it was towed. That's normally not the case, right? A tow truck doesn't need police permission to tow something. Does that mean there was something illegally happening because an officer was there?
If it was on public property, they do need to have police permission.
It was on what?
If it was on city property, they do need the police to be there, yeah.
Just curiosity question. Learned something new.
I appreciate it. I just learned something new as well. All right, last chance? Well, not last chance, just tonight. All righty, thank you, gentlemen, for your time, your effort, and of course, I always want to be clear how much I appreciate the work you do and your leadership. It starts at the top and trickles throughout the organization, and we see that every day, especially your new folks who have come on. They've really made a difference. I had the honor of meeting our animal control person, and that was just one of those stories I'm never going to say to the microphone, but it was awesome, which is just to say thank you again for the leadership. You really do set the standard, and again, that then makes its way through the organization, and it's definitely felt, seen, and appreciated. So we are now going to move to review of Agreement Supplement 1 with Consor for the Wastewater Comprehensive Plan. Say that 6 times fast. And we welcome back our Public Works Director, Gary Shimmick.
Hello again, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. I have a second wind. So having a can of Coke at 58 does wonders, and will help with my drive back to Olympia after we're done. So we have 2 similar budget amendments. So I'm just going to talk briefly about both of them together and then talk individually. So back in December of 2024, we approved contracts with Consor for the Wastewater Comprehensive Plan and RH2 for the Water Comprehensive Plan. And that those contracts did not include some important elements of the work, our financial and rate analysis. And there were 2 reasons why we didn't do it at that time and are coming to talk to you now. First, we were just not ready with the final scope for the financial study. While there are guidelines for these comp plans, there really is a lot of leeway that we can take. And I was relatively new at the time, and I just didn't know how detailed we want to get. And actually, we do want to get very detailed, but we put that on pause for that. The second reason was Sergey, our financial director, and their fabulous team were right in the middle of some cleanup of our utilities funds. So we really didn't have data to provide over to start that study anyway. So those are the 2 reasons why we waited. But in that time, since December 24, both plans have been worked on by both Consor and RH2. Just a recap, that this is really boils down to very sophisticated long-term computer modeling, right? To look and see how is our system performing now, but how would our system be performing in 50 years with population growth? What would be the constraining points? Where would we need to grow? So this is a big lift, and that's why it's only done every 6 years. But it's very significant. So they have been chugging along. But now we do have enough data to provide over, and good data, I should say, by the way. And we decided that we want to do a full financial analysis and be a 6-year comprehensive look, so it's 27 to 2032. Very detailed analysis that will be coming to you. So this chapter will actually be coming to you before the plans are done as part of the budget process this year. So we'll be getting started on right away if you do approve this. So just looking at the first one, the Consor wastewater plan. So I'm just going to go over some numbers here. So in the 25-6 adopted budget, we had $550,000 set aside for the sewer comp plan. Now that's about, basically 34% of our biennial professional services. There's about 1.6 million. So there's a lot of engineering work besides this that we do. But that is a big significant lift, right, the $550K. So that's what the total was allotted for. You executed the Consor plan, the wastewater plan, at $448,790, and that was for all the work minus the financial chapter. So what we're coming to you today for the wastewater plan is an amendment for $70,584, and that will then be basically the rate study and financial chapter for the wastewater comp plan. The new contract total will be $519,584, and that will leave a budget of about $30,000 in case there is additional work that we would need to do. But I find that very likely, as I think this will cover all of that. For the RH2, and the table didn't turn out great on your printed copies. Jennifer and I worked on it, so it is in Civic Plus correct, but very similar. We had a water plan budget of $425,000 in the approved 25-6 budget. You approved the contract with RH2 for $349,723 in December 24. And then we're coming to you today for the $59,680, which is an amendment for the financial chapter and a management reserve of $10,000. So the new contract total is $409,403, and that will leave us with a budget of about $15,000. And again, in terms of timing, the entire plan, will only be done after this budget season, right? Because what we're going to be really not going to take a pause in it, but we're going to be presenting to you both the capital plan coming from both of these comp plans, and then what we're planning to do, and I think I mentioned this last time was here, we're going to give you a high, medium, and low rate path for both of these sewer and comp plan, and we're going to show you what projects will be funded with each of those rate paths, and then the risks that we still have at each level. Once we're done with that and we get your final decision as part of the budget process, we will then finalize both plans. But that will be at the end of the year. But the amendment that you will be considering today, these two amendments, the work will be started pretty much immediately, and then 90% of it will be done and presented to you as part of the budget process, and then they'll finalize everything as we go. So again, two different plans, but the same type of budget amendment. So that we're requesting that you consider these and would approve these as part of the consent package on February 5th. Thank you, and I'll take any questions that you have.
Perfect. Any questions, comments, or feedback? Oh, yes, please. Councilmember Murray, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Gary. I was going to say, I'm sorry to hear that you're driving back to Olympia tonight. So we'll try to get you out of here. But I guess I feel like because we are at the place we are in terms of budget, I feel like I should at least ask this question. I appreciate us having a comprehensive rate study based on all of the work that's been done. And we also, have kind of our historical, what we have been raised rates for in the past. I guess I'm curious, tell me if we were not to approve these and we did not do that additional work in terms of like a comprehensive rate study, where would that leave us and what would the impact be on our residents?
If we didn't approve this, we would have to look internally for support to do this. And Ryan Doss, who you met earlier today, well, he has never done a rate plan before. He does have economic chops, so he would help us with it. I don't know all, and Cirque and maybe their staff might be able to help us out, but unfortunately, I have a little bit of economic background, so does my wife, but she can't help. But there's a lot of nuances with bonding and stuff that I just don't know if everybody has the experience to do, and that's the key with this particular consultant. And I think we talked about this maybe last year when I first got here. One of the reasons we seek consultants, always try to do it our own first, but as expertise. And in this particular case, we really want to run a lot of different scenarios with different types of low interest loans, grants, all these sort of things to kind of figure out, how can we be most efficient and get the most use of our dollars. So that's what we're really trying to do with that. So without the consultant support, we would do something, but it wouldn't be as robust. And that analysis and then our 6-year plan, which we'd be presenting to you, in a few months, would be solid, but wouldn't be as robust as I like. Carolyn, I think you may have something that you wanted to add.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if you could expand on like what goes into the rate study, because it isn't just looking like at inflation numbers, it's looking at our operations and our whole capital program. So could you just expand on that a little?
Right. I mean, and again, the state has some requirements on it, but the key is that you really need to look at your whole entire portfolio. So not just capital, but also your operating as well. And also that your end of year fund balances, there's guidelines, and we have guidelines as well ourselves about how much we should have at the end of each year. So it's a cash flow issue as well. So, and again, we look at bonding and all that sort of stuff. So it's really a look at our whole portfolio. And what we also you'll be seeing as part of this is a little bit of a benchmarking to see how are we comparing with others, just so that that I try to run as efficient shop as we can, but we also do need to look how others are doing it. So it'll give us a little bit of taste of that as well as how we are compared to others in terms of the rate paths that we would be on.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. That, I was going to say, explanation is very helpful, and I'll just name, like, I think particularly with where we are at right now in terms of, budget and some of the challenges that we have, I think, looking to staff to try to, really understand, like, where these investments are benefiting our city and our residents, and, like, where we are able to maybe there's our ideal scenario if we had a budget that was, balanced or a surplus, and where we are, given where we're at and where maybe there are times we can scale back, what ideal scenario, but not scale back so much that it ultimately is, cutting off our nose to spite our face. I was going to say, I was looking for a better analogy, but it wasn't coming, but I mean, so that's like, at least on a personal level, I want to make sure we're making the investments that are going to make sound long-term sense in our community. And, every dollar we spend here is a dollar that we're not spending somewhere else potentially, right? And so I appreciate the additional context, because it is really helpful as we're making these decisions to try to figure out how to stretch out our limited resources. Right, and just to be, I should be clear on this too, and I maybe didn't, I apologize, that so this will be for the particular funds, right? So that these won't be, sewer doesn't compete with anything. Sewer competes with itself. No general fund competition at all. I mean, there are utility taxes and stuff that we self-impose on ourselves, and we'll be explaining that. So really, when we come to you with the various levels, it's really going to be how sewer competes with itself at different levels. At how far can we push things off so that we're not concerned about it collapsing, as an example, right? And that's what we want to really. We just don't. I think this came up earlier in the CMP discussion. I don't want to be alarmist, right? Because things can happen at all times. But we need, and this is where the financial analysis helps. Combining it with engineering, let's be real. Let's explain a little. Let's have a risk conversation and see what happens. Like, what if we take a little bit more risk? That's going to be able to have less impacts, less rate increase. But comes down to, are you all comfortable with that risk that I hopefully will be able to describe to you? And it gets to be, it's a judgment call sometimes, right? I mean, because we just don't know when some of these things, are gonna be at their end of useful life. So that's what we really want to kind of bring to you, is that a real discussion. Thank you.
And not alarmist.
Thank you.
Would you mind if I just added? I just wanted to reiterate what you said earlier, I think in the beginning of the presentation, Gary, that the proposal tonight is budgeted for. We just didn't ask for as much as we had budgeted earlier.
Correct.
So we still are within the budget that you approved, but we need your approval to spend more of the budget. So it's over Jeff's signing authority. So thank you.
Please, Councilmember Sonmore.
I know we're looking at more budget for this, but My concern is, and I think I asked you last time, when was our last rate study?
That ended up with the last year there was a 6-year study, ended in 24, I believe. So it was must have been 2018. And with both of those 6-year rate studies, we actually were well below. We did not build as much as we proposed. They're much, much less in both of those.
Well, one of my fears is looking at other cities, because I've seen what they've been doing lately with their increases, and it's astonishing where we got ourselves. And I appreciate Councilmember Murray's question is when we didn't do the rate study on time, and then the explosion from the water bills.
Exactly.
And so it always has the hair on the back of my neck standing up, because our citizens are embracing for that. And we know that it has to go up. And that's one of those things that we don't have a lot of control over. And that's why I like saving the pennies in the other areas, because I know they don't compete, but people are still paying for these services. And when you said it ended in 2024, so the rate study is for 6 years. So the last time we increased water was in 2024 with that 6-year plan that we had, because we had it stacked, where we would increase the water rates a certain amount at a certain time.
I can't remember fully. I can get back to you on what the results were for the 6 years. That was before my time, but I know we just did one. We recently had an increase and was supposed to be in 25, but it ended up being this year. That was the 3%. So that was just following kind of the recommendation of the last plan. I think that was whatever year that ended in. But it didn't have, the last rate study did not have any recommendations for 25 or 26. Those were.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we're almost, so when we get this rate study, will it go retro, it would look at those other years that we haven't increased, right? So
well, it would be from 27 to 32 would be what we'd be looking at for this. Because we're set now, right, for the rates for this year.
My concern is, are we behind on our rate study? Because that's what got us into a lot of trouble last time, is because we missed that window for our rate studies.
Yeah, we are behind, right? So we are behind, yes. And there's two issues of my concern. One is, yes, behind on the rate study. That's a great point. And two, if you look back at what we were hoping to build and construct, since the last rate study, we didn't do it. Why? Well, COVID, and there's other good reasons, staffing. So we're actually well behind in terms of improvements that we wanted to make from really the last comprehensive plan, actually, to even be talked about that. So, but that's why I want to bring this element of risk in, right? So you can really see, like, if we really wanted to catch up, maybe that's too much, right? Maybe, but what would that look like if we really, as you were saying, I just love the way you said that, is just, catching up and still having, reasonable rate increases, no spikes.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, we still have cement pipes in that are breaking. I mean, there's a whole host of things that need to be repaired, and that's my big concern is
right.
the cost to the taxpayer. And looking at, we looked at different ways on how to take the existing, cement pipe and putting, the
liners,
the plastic
yes,
liner
exactly,
in, yeah,
exactly.
But, there's so much sewer here that.
There is. But there are two, what you're going to also see with these two comp plans and this rate study too, is looking at what we're replacing because things are coming to their end of life, but also, as we talked about earlier today, growth, right? There's some pipes that are in great condition, but we want to grow areas, and how do we deal with that? Is that a growth pace for growth? So those are some of the other financial questions policies we may be coming to you, and how do we address that?
Thank you, because that's my next question. You just answered it, because I know there's some projects going on underneath here to build some stuff here.
Yes.
But when we were told, when we were growing, that growth would pay for itself. So in that study, can we find out how growth is paying for themselves?
And that'll be some choices I think that you'll make, and what the technical piece, you will actually see every stick of pipe, every pump station is going to have three options. One, we have to do this because it's about to break, or will break soon. Or we have to do this because of growth, but it's actually in okay condition. Or it's both. It's actually, almost at failure, and you need it to grow, get bigger. So you're going to see that, and then that's going to be actually some of the options we come up with the financing is if we had a truly growth pays for growth, right? Here's what the capital program would look like, right?
It's just, I don't want to tell a resident who can't afford what they're already paying that you're paying for that new apartment over there because your water and sewer is going up by this much. Because the way that we have done things in the past by giving apartment buildings certain tax increments, it's not working anymore. And people know that it's not working anymore. That's always expected, and there should be more room for negotiation because probably the last bit, but times are changing, and the way we did that before isn't working now. So there's a mandate with the Growth Management Act that the state is putting upon us. So citizens are almost having to pay for that because it's not their fault that we're growing here. And so a lot of it is coming on to the citizens, and now they're looking at how we're going to allow businesses into our city and how we're going to put different things in our city. And so I feel like everything's going up. I just saw today we're going to put 10 cents on glass bottles. And then we're voting on schools, and gas is going up. And I have a whole list of probabilities of what will go to our taxpayers, and it's extremely scary for somebody out there who can't afford anything. So I'm just saying this rate study is going to be kind of hair-raising.
Right, and it goes back, Aaron, to Councilmember Murray, what you just talked about before is with what we can do with this particular consulting firm is it has the latest and greatest options of what are other places doing in terms of this growth for growth or not, and explain that to you and see which ones you're comfortable with. But we'll be able to give you the gamut of what's reasonable and what's legal, right? What can we actually do? How far can we push that? How comfortable are you with? And that's really the conversation we want to tee up with this financial work.
Excellent. I think the Mayor Pro Tem was trying to jump in.
Can I just follow up? It's just, I already forgot what it was. No, it had to do with Aaron. Oh, it had to do with what Aaron was saying about if we don't do a certain amount, what happened to us last time is where we had that big spike. And that's where I think she's asking about is, if we put projects off for so long, so we can kick it down the road, and when we're all off council, this new council is going to have to raise water by 55% that you're seeing in other cities.
Exactly. Yes, we don't want that to happen.
Yeah, Member Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think it's mostly been answered, but I just did want to clarify that, it was 2018 that we last did this and saw the big spike in rates because we had fallen so far behind. That's the importance of doing this now, in being able to get a good study done. And so it's not only are we updating the comprehensive plan for the water and the sewer, but we're also, this piece of what we're asking for is the rate study to be able to figure out what rates do we need to set.
Yes.
And it is painful. It doesn't seem like that long because we're still feeling the pain from those of us that did it 6 years ago or 7 years, whatever, and hearing complaints from our residents about the water and sewer rates and all of that. But we are going to have to, that's why it's also important to be able to hire professionals that know what they're doing and are able to give us the right rates and be able to then come back with some options for us to be able to consider, to be able to make sure that we don't continue falling further and further behind and then have to have a huge jump in the future. The other thing I wanted to clarify, and while I appreciate absolutely Councilmember Murray's points as far as making sure that we're being as careful as we can on every dollar we spend, I did want to clarify that this is coming out of the water fund and the sewer fund, which is different than our operating fund and the operating budget, which is the whole other piece of the financial sustainability task force and the recommendations they're making, right? That has to do with the operating budget. What we're talking about for the rates getting the dollars to be able to do the rates is coming out of the water fund and the sewer fund. And then when we start talking about having to do set rates or reset rates or whatever we're going to do, that's going to have all the funding that's coming into that is going to go into the water and sewer fund specifically to be able to fund those infrastructure projects and maintenance and operations and service. So different budgets, but point well taken. And no matter which fund we're talking about, we need to be very careful about every dollar we spend. This is a wise investment here to make sure that we're spending dollars to do it the right way and don't find ourselves in a hole in the future.
And just one thing to add to that is that what we're really going to try to focus on is looking at stacking projects that across funds, that if there is a pipe that, a wastewater pipe that has to get done in the next 5 years, okay, maybe there's a water pipe, same place, maybe 10 years, let's do them now. Oh, and maybe let's do that street too, right? So that is another way we can really, because that's where you really can reduce some costs by getting those major capital projects done together with one project. Not always feasible, right? Because sometimes you'd be replacing something that's you just made an investment on, so we can't always guarantee that, but we will be looking at that as well too, as a way to really, just looking at, trying to save every penny.
Excellent. Any more questions, comments, or feedback? All right, seeing none, we'll leave it at me, which mine is safe travels.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, folks, let's be realistic. It's thank you for grouping that together for us, but we still have 2 votes, a report and reviews and our own comments. So right there alone, there's no way we're doing that in 15 minutes. So I will entertain a motion to extend the meeting, and please tell me how much time you think is needed when you say so. Let's see, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move to extend the meeting until 10:30. Hoping that we get out earlier.
Are we still doing the vote on the construction? I don't, because it wasn't on my electronic copy, but it was here on this copy.
That was going to be my next question, because I don't see our parks.
So we're not doing that one?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I'm seeing the clerk shake her head no. Well, let's finish this process. I had a second?
Second.
I have a second. So we have a motion on the table to extend to 10:30. No need to go to 10:30. I'm looking at me. And I have a second. Do we have second? We have a second from, actually, excuse me, Councilmember Murray gave it a second. And so I think we call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Perfect. We are extended to 10:30. Do not feel the need to push that barrier. And now it sounds like we have a discrepancy, because I do not see our I do not see our Recreation and Parks Director. Oh, look at him. Timing? Or is it our city manager?
That's Jeff Knighton. Yeah, we pulled the construction management contract. We'll be presenting it next time.
Okay, perfect. Good to know. So we are, on my sheet, we're not doing 9, and now we're going to skip to review and vote on the January 2026 claims. No? What did I miss? Oh. For our city manager.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of council, and thank you for allowing me to present from home since I have a very, very early morning tomorrow morning. So appreciate that. This item is usually something that you see on your consent agenda at regular meetings. And the reason why we're bringing it to you tonight is because we've had a run of meetings that have been canceled. January 1 was the first one, which is a holiday, obviously, and then January 15th was the second one. So you'll see the payments and claims there a little bit larger, not in dollar amount, but a little bit larger in the volume of payments and claims that we need to have taken care of and council to take action on so we can pay the bills. That's why the agenda item's separate, and why it's on your work session agenda, not on a consent agenda. So happy to try to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, City Manager. Do we have any questions, comments, or feedback? Seeing, we do. Mayor Pro Tem, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to make the motion so we can get this
thank you, sir.
Off the table. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve the January 2026 payment of claims.
You have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Murray seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes 7-0. We'll roll right into the city manager's report with a thank you for the review and the vote on the claims. But roll into our report, or your report, I should say.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Again, a few things to mention tonight. First, been several mentions of our city action days over the past couple of days in Olympia, trying to highlight the priorities for our community in 2026. And I think we were successful in doing so, and that was a successful trip. Second, I wanted to note that the registration is open for the Community Academy. It's open through February 20th. We've had a great response so far. Nearly 20 people have signed up so far, and we have a week and a half to go for that. And next, speaking of canceled meetings, next Thursday is the 5th Thursday in January. So we will not be having a meeting that evening, and the next time we meet will be on February 5th. The last item I wanted to bring to your attention at our previous meeting, at your previous meeting, there was a desire for a statement from the City Council on the incident in Minneapolis, and we have prepared a few drafts of that statement. We have that available for you this evening for any council members that would like to sign that statement. And we will take that statement and publish it. I believe you all have a copy of it in front of you and have taken the time to read through that and are comfortable with the language that is there. Jennifer, our city clerk, has a copy of that, so you're welcome if you'd like to sign that this evening, and we will publish that tomorrow on our webpage and our social media pages. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, City Manager. Any questions, comments, or feedback? All right, seeing none, we will move to the review of February 5th's meeting agenda. We all had a chance to look at it. Any concerns or additions or corrections? Seeing none, but seeing head shake, nope, no need to. We're moving forward to council comments, and we will start with the Honorable Councilmember Matsumoto Wright.
I have no comments.
Okay, no comments. We'll work our way down the line to another Honorable, Sonmore.
I do. I was going to do it at our next meeting, but I'll do it right now. I want to point out we lost a community member very recently, Judy Smith, and I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the passing of a dear friend, neighbor, community member, a valued member of our community. She dedicated countless hours to Terrace, driving our former mayor to many appointments when he couldn't drive, mowing right-of-ways to keep our city looking nice. Her commitment to our friends in the community will sincerely be missed. Her contributions will not go unforgotten. Her absence will be deeply felt by her loved ones, friends, and neighbors. I extend my heartfelt condolences to her family and friends. And I had the honor of having dinner with her New Year's Eve, and I'll have to say 2026 won't be the same without her. So.
Well said, and thank you for those beautiful words. The Honorable Councilmember Page.
Yeah, the only comment that I have is just something that I hope the city is starting to take notice of. It's great that, we have the light rail, and with the light rail, there's all these opportunities, for growth and, people coming into the city. And I think it's also great that people feel safe to park their cars on their streets rather than in wherever they normally park their cars. But the concern, I hope that, that I have, and that I hope others are noticing, is where, and I'll just speak to the City Hall Plaza, just the lack of parking availability for people who want to use City Hall Plaza. During the day, the parking lot is full. People that want to use the library struggle to find a place to park to go to the library. People want to come to City Hall to pay their bills, to take care of business here at City Hall. There's no parking on the street as well as in the parking lot. Or if they want to go to, the police plaza, there's no parking. And I think that needs to be addressed sooner than later. I don't know what the answer looks like, but we need to realize that it is happening. And it's happening all over this part of the city. But for right now, I think City Hall Plaza, we've got amenities here and services here that people rely upon, and now it's getting difficult for them just to get to these places just because of the parking for the light rail.
Councilmember Sonmore?
I'm glad you're bringing that up. We talked about that years ago before light rail got here, and it was one of those things, well, we'll kind of worry about it when it gets here. And he had lots of conversations about people parking in the neighborhoods like the mayor just talked about. And I can't remember all the conversations. Some other people here might, but we talked about having certain parking passes and different things like that, because I think we've got to start working on that now, because it's not going to get any better. It's going to continue to get worse. So I thank you for bringing that up.
Please.
I guess I should announce that I am now on the Community Transit Board. And one of the things that I would really want to work on is to get that 1 mile. Majority of the people, over 60% of the people who park in our transit center live within 1 mile. So that's why we call it the 1 mile project. And how do we get them to get there a different way? Walk, bicycle, carpool, or a transit? Well, I've talked to our community transit CEO, and I live in a transit desert. My house is in a transit desert. It takes me a half a mile to get to north, south, east, or west to a bus stop. So we really need to get either more buses or buses that run at times that we need it. Because commuter buses are in the morning and in the afternoon, but what happens if you need to do something in the midday? And not everybody works a 9-to-5 job. So I'm going to work on that, and I really want to get zip cars down into Mountlake Terrace, because they're working wonderfully in Arlington and Darrington. But we also need it here. And we have the Metro version of the zip car going to our Mountlake Terrace transit station, and that's from King County. And yet they can pick people up in South Mountlake Terrace, but not North Mountlake Terrace. And so all the zip car for community transit has to do is come another 1.5 miles south to cover our section of Mountlake Terrace to get to the light rail station in our city. So those are the things that I think that now that we have a Mountlake Terrace representation on community transit, that I hope to get some of these things to happen. So if you have any ideas, just come to me.
Yeah, outstanding.
No
No
bicycles?
green bikes. Yeah. Hey, don't forget your microphone.
Oh.
Yeah, well, still, that's what people are wondering. Thank you for that service, by the way, and thank you for thinking about us. And as a commuter, I know you will have insights that will make a difference, so thank you for that. I did want to remind us, or tell us, for some of the new people here, that right down the street here in front of Veterans Park, and I can't recall if I was on our PAC or I had just transitioned to the council, so less than 6 years ago, we had this similar problem that Councilmember Page has brought up. And that's why you'll see that now it's got a limited amount of time you can park there. So just reminding us, we do have tools and resources at our disposal. Maybe that might be a path. Started off the same amount of time that we've given. I think it's 4 hours that we say just down the street here in front of the park. So maybe that might be something to explore. I don't know that that's a recommendation more than just recognizing that. We have done something about parking in the past. And this might be a chance to at least solve this one. And we do need to revisit well, what are we going to do about the neighborhoods? Because I have definitely personally been wondering what is going on at the other sites. Is Linwood shutting down less parking? Because there's a lot more people just coming up this street, and it's actually crossed over at this point, which I'm like, the irony is that's about a quarter mile that you're pointing out. They're still walking. So you took out a quarter mile from your house and you still have the half mile to get to either place. But just putting that out there, we do have options at our disposal. Moving down, and we'll go with comments from the Honorable Councilmember Doyle, and this is probably a good time to let you know, you do not have to have comments. We just all seem to have them tonight. You do you.
You're
We're
like,
just
you
letting you
can
know.
talk.
Just letting you know. No, we're good to 10:30 at this point, so we're
I'm
fine.
gonna, okay, I have a small comment about the first mile. I recently took light rail to UW Medical Center. Usually I don't, to South Lake Union, and I walked the 20 minutes from my house, but my first thought was great zip cars, and also if there is a way to like partner, it's like, that's a public health thing. It's a public health, it's a communications, thing. And also, I bet most people don't know what you just told us, that most people using the transit center within a mile, people are also competitive. Like there's an opportunity there for like, hey, Verdant, hey, public health, hey, city, like people are competitive. They love, like I walked every day last week, right? You could actually like incentivize it for people, or with the rec center, but a part of it's just awareness. I bet people don't realize, oh my gosh, I don't, if I can walk a mile in the morning. That's about 20 minutes, from my house. So a lot of it's just building awareness with people, but there's also opportunity to help us encourage people. And if you have to incentivize, and also it takes people a while to build new habits. They'll do it once, they'll do it twice, but if they can really in the habit of doing it, then you might see some change.
Excellent.
That's all.
Matt, might be an opportunity for the newsletter perhaps to just bring that concept forward as you work on whatever it is. Sounds like it's in the works, or maybe it's already been in existence, but that might be part of the tool. Again, we have resources. So
One of the things about the 3-hour or the 4-hour parking that we have here, for residents, I was just, because Seattle has, whatever they call it, so if you have the sticker that matches whatever, the blue zone, the white zone, the red zone, whatever. So the residents can park there for more than the 4 hours. But if you don't have a sticker as a resident, then you can only park that 4 hours.
Perfect.
Maybe we should look into that again, because I know we tried to look into it in the past, and nothing happened, so.
So thank you for that. I would say with the city manager and deputy city manager, I think I'm hearing enough conversation here to say that we want to revisit that. So I know we have very stacked agendas, but if we can squeeze that back in sooner rather than later, it's in our interest, because soon it's going to be filling up here with complaints, and then we'll be like, oh, we didn't know. We knew. So again, we have resources at our disposal already to start thinking about this. We'll keep moving on our comments to Honorable Councilmember Murray, excuse me.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I appreciate the conversation. I think super interesting, and would, support revisiting. I think the conversation around parking, I think to your point about that increase with the Revive I-5 project, as somebody who drives south into Seattle in the mornings, my commute has doubled, and this is a multiple year project. So I do think we probably need to have that conversation sooner rather than later, because I do think, I will say, I was talking to a colleague who takes light rail and takes light rail and transit in as part of their commute. And I will say that it is looking more and more appealing every day in terms of time, because that light rail gets there a lot quicker than the freeway does right now. So I appreciate that conversation and would love to have that, and would also love to make an early plug. I'm super excited that Councilmember Matsumoto Wright is representing us on community transit, and would put in an early plug for the week without driving. I talk about it every year, but for folks who haven't heard my pitch in the past, October 1st through 8th this year, with the opportunity to better understand the almost third of our community that are non-drivers. And I will say it is a challenging week every year. You can ask my kids how much they loved that week. But I think it's a really good reminder that it is helpful to understand what folks in our community are experiencing in order to make decisions that impact them. So I'll make an early plug for that. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention, I received this today, so it's a little bit late notice, and I'll apologize for that, but super, I think, excited. So the HOSA, which is the Health Occupations Students of America Club at Mountlake Terrace High School, is holding an awareness and advocacy night tomorrow night at the Lake Ballinger Center. And so they're looking to bring awareness to unhomed individuals in Snohomish County and bring light to some of their challenges. That is tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. So they're looking for folks to stop by. They're going to have a presentation, and also are encouraging people to bring hygiene or clothing items to donate if possible. So I thought that was great, and I appreciate that they are doing that. And so I'm going to try to stop by and would definitely invite others to join me as well. I think that's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, yeah, outstanding. And the Honorable Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, give me a microphone, careful.
You got 25 minutes.
I know, right? I'll limit my comments to, since we're talking about appointments, and for those of you that don't know or stuck around long enough to be able to hear the results from Snohomish County Cities, I was reelected to both the Executive Board for Snohomish County Cities and Executive Board for Puget Sound Regional Council, and also appointed to the Operations Committee and the Finance Committee for the Puget Sound Regional Council. So I'll reserve everything else for another day.
All right, congratulations to you and congratulations to our city. That's awesome. And I was one who did not stick around. I was gone. Did my vote and hit the dough. That said, let me do mine real quick. Linwood Neighborhood Center. This city was wise enough to invest in that amazing resource, and it is going to go online officially on Monday as in doors open. We actually heard in Olympia today that Boys and Girls Club will be, I don't think I'm telling on them, closing their Edmonds and will be shifting their resources up to the Linwood site. So it will actually be lively starting Monday. They're going to be ready on Monday for that. Before that, though, in the spirit of let's celebrate, thank you for those who were able to make the ribbon cutting. You had your former mayor and your current mayor both make the photo. It is national news for the record. But we did a ribbon cutting, and now we'll do a community celebration this Saturday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. The one room is dedicated to Legos, which is a whole thing. Who knew? For me. Dance teams will be there, food trucks, musicians. It's just going to be an open house party, effectively. Drop in when you want to. There'll be a very short presentation, if you will, from Mr. Steves himself, Rick Steves. But for the most part, it's just come and see this new gym. And again, to our residents, we as a city invested in this on your behalf, and this is your building. So please, if you can, make time to come see it. And if not this Saturday, do know it is officially open on Monday, which means you can make your way over there to see the piazza that is now here in the South Snohomish County. And I'll keep moving to say, although we lost him, I wanted to let the person who did the public comment know I will watch the recording and hear what you had to say, but I was also curious to know how you like the counter, which is a shout out to Shoreline and to our city clerk for working with Shoreline. Long story short, we saw it there and said, hey, that might be helpful. And I don't know how you all took it, but I thought it was great. And I walked in as it was happening. I knew exactly how many minutes I had to walk around to come back in. So that stated, just want to again give the city clerk credit for working with Shoreline City Clerk to bring that to our city, and I will leave it there. We are officially, oh, let's try it again, adjourned. Yeah, is that the better way? Oh, perfect. I was like, I never notched it. So.